It is clicked.
Awesome.
Live.
Okay, so I'm sending you a picture. This is great because I realized when I read this tweet that this whole trans issue is like my lifelong nightmare come to life. And the reason is, when I was a kid, I had this experience where I was in second grade, and the fourth graders, the big dogs in town, started picking on one of my friends. And I started trying to stop the fourth grader from picking on my friends. And he told me to knock it off. And so did all the other second graders and fourth graders. They acted like I was the insane person for trying to stop something that was very mean from happening. Anyway, I acted like I was going to back off, and then I just ran and I charged the fourth grader kid and knocked him on the ground. I felt really cool. But anyway, ever since then, my entire life, I have this recurring theme in my dreams where something absolutely insane is happening, but everybody acts like it's normal except me. Like, I'll have a dream that somebody is like, trying to kill me, and they're like a professional assassin, and everybody's like, dude, he's just trying to do his job. Just let the guy kill you. Why are you? You're being ridiculous. And it's this syndrome that I have that's like, no, you're the crazy one. And when I read this great tweet, every woman who threw a tantrum about trans inclusion on International Women's Day is free to set up an International Cis Women's Day. Even call it International Biological Women's Day if it makes you happy. But you won't, because it will advertise what a fringe cult you are. It's like, oh my God, that's my whole nightmare, is that crazy people take over and they call normal shit a fringe cult.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what they've been doing, but not to mention that, you're not allowed to do this. They would freak out about it.
They absolutely would.
Well, we already have proof of that. There was that super straight thing a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And there was going to be that march for straight people. I think Milo Yiannopoulos threw it. We're talking like 3-4 years ago, and they lost their ever-loving minds about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They had a straight parade or something like that, which is funny because Milo's gay, or was gay. Who knows what he is now?
I don't know. Milo's crazy. He's one of those ones that might claim that electroshock therapy works for him or something.
Well, I don't know. Everything he does is kind of a performance. He's postmodern to the max, man. And now he's some trad Catholic guy. But I don't know if that's much different than who's the other guy who went trad Catholic who used to be a pickup artist, Roosh V. And
isn't Milo married?
Like Milo got divorced to become a trad Catholic.
Oh, I haven't paid attention to him in a while.
He's straight now. He started doing that. I haven't followed him. I gave my dog that toy. I put it far away, but it sounds like it's still picking up pretty well.
Yeah.
But he said he did all that, and then the last I heard from him was all that hubbub around bringing Kanye on Tim Pool and then bringing Nick Fuentes into Donald Trump's office to make a fool of Donald Trump. Which all obvious was purposely set up. Like he was purposely going after Trump. If you saw some people like Laura Loomer expose that he'd like mentioned he was purposely trying to make Trump look like a fool with that. But that's the last I heard from him. But I remember Lauren Southern, like she dunked on him hard when she made her video about exposing everybody and all that stuff. But I don't know. Milo always just seemed kind of like a performance artist to me.
Yeah, I remember him saying some interesting things, but I guess they weren't that interesting because I don't remember what they are.
Well, I remember that. He. It was kind of interesting, especially around that time frame. One of those big Berkeley fires and riots were around him speaking, and that was important. It didn't even matter what he was saying or not. It was just showing that the place where the free speech movement started blew out right there, and it was all because of Milo Yiannopoulos. Like that was the biggest deal in the world. What's up, Marty?
Can you hear me okay without the headphones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear us?
Yeah, my husband's working right here. He wants to hear too. So.
Oh, nice. What do you know about Milo Yiannopoulos?
Well, I knew about him back in like 2016. Not anything recent though.
Yeah, it's all kind of blown over, except that stuff where he took Kanye in to meet Trump. Kanye and Nick Fuentes. There was some drama around Nick Fuentes just this week because one of those the girl from Fresh and Fit, just Peachy or something like that, interviewed.
Really? I just saw a clip of that on Trigonometry. I didn't know who Nick Fuentes was until I heard about him from that.
Oh, you didn't know Fuentes at all? So Fuentes was carted in to meet with Trump about 6 months ago by Milo Yiannopoulos with Kanye West. And the three of them went in together, and it was all super wacky because Kanye West is hanging out with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes has been kind of a glowy. That term glowy on the internet, people don't know. It means you think they're probably some sort of secret fed plant or something like that. But he's been a glowy young kid who came up as being like this alt-right. His name's Nick Fuentes. He's half Mexican, and he's an alt-right white supremacist. You know? And
he gets so mad if you point out Fuentes, though.
Yeah, and he started hanging out with Kanye and with Milo, and then Milo carried him into a meeting with Trump. Trump didn't know who he was. The whole internet freaked out, and Milo, it was kind of exposed that Milo had been butthurt by Trump, and he was trying to make Trump look like an idiot on purpose. And I guess it worked because he just kind of trusts Kanye. I think because of Kanye, he just let Kanye in. And but Milo Fuentes kind of got famous for making that meme popular around the internet of the Cookie Monster joke. Did you ever hear the Cookie Monster joke? The Cookie Monster joke is about
the 6 million cookies thing.
Kevin, build stuff with wooden tools. Nice. We got Kulak Scum. We got Marty.
What the hell, Marty?
Yeah. Empty.
I tried to think of something funny before I logged on, and I was like, "Tell me something funny." Kevin's like,
I still like your double conscious or false consciousness or whatever thing that you had. That was
probably have internalized misogyny for being here.
Yeah. The Fuentes got famous a little bit for the Groypers. Empty Bedlam's right. The Groypers would go around and like show up at events for Matt Walsh and say, "Hey, you work for a Jewish person. Why are you working for a Jewish person?" type stuff. And they used to always go and troll Dan Crenshaw too a whole lot. And they really were just kind of like teen edgy boys who'd kind of go around and make scenes everywhere. They'd keep going to like the conservative conventions and show themselves getting thrown out, and they'd get thrown out, but at the same time all like the Media Matters left-wing people would take pictures of them and say, "Look who the conservative convention got let in." And it's just kind of like this infinite loop of Baudrillardian bullshit that everybody was playing into for the internet, you know. But why were we talking about Milo Yiannopoulos? Oh, I don't remember.
Has he done anything since that whole shenanigans with Ye?
No, that's the last I've heard of anything.
I saw him. I think I saw like some Destiny video that was advertised to me that had him in it.
Oh, really?
Were you kind of touching on him kind of sabotaging the right?
Yeah, I talked about that. And Laura Loomer exposed that. Laura Loomer's been a ding dong though lately too, because she got thrown in the bus so hard by Trump, but she is going hard after Ron DeSantis, trying to expose Ron DeSantis as a secret Fed and stuff. But these are all almost kind of like I don't know, like 2016 people still trying to stay relevant in the 2023s or whatever. But why were we talking about those ones?
I can't remember what got us.
Well, I sent this video to Marty and Jared. You came across it yourself. I'm not going to show it just to advertise it, but it is a kind of an interesting video. There's this channel called What If Alt History. It's got this video of like the coming far right backlash, although this isn't like this isn't some over the top goofy Media Matters person talking about this, why angry young men will still be rebels and all that stuff. And it's actually a really measured take on probably what's going to happen is that over time, mostly rebellious young men who are getting thrown to the bus are going to grow into maybe you could call it dangerous, but one way or the other is they're not gonna stand very much longer for how stuff's going. And it's just true in history that it happens all the time.
I just kind of think that it's a nice change of pace instead of being called a Nazi fascist to be called a lib cuck commie or something like that. So I figure that's what I'll be called as soon as the alt-right backlash happens. So I'm just ready for it, I guess. Whatever.
Antebellum says the Pennsylvania guy. Yeah, that's the what if alt his guy. He's got interesting stuff. The guy's lived all over Asia, and he has interesting takes on a lot of different stuff. Kind of read some different books on the issues. I was going to just suggest 3 different podcasts. I'm going to do it first so I can take them down because I got too much crap on. I got too many tabs open. These are 3 different professors who are getting fired. 2 are in Canada, so maybe that doesn't count because that's a different planet. But Peter Boghossian and Jonathan Streeter talked about Boghossian on.
He's getting fired recently?
No, this is Boghossian's channel. Boghossian quit.
Yeah.
But it's the same university.
What do you guys think about him? Lately, he's been making posts saying, "Don't donate to your alma mater." How do you say that?
Alma mater.
Alma mater.
I think so.
Don't know.
Yes.
He said even if you graduated 5 years ago, it's not the same university that you went to.
I think there's truth to it, but I mean, the University of Utah, the humanities department, when I was there 15 years ago, was already gone. But I think it was one of the first places kind of around here to be gone. But I don't think their STEM department was yet at all. So I can't speak for what's going on in the STEM departments around. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know about I don't really know about colleges, but if the last 5 years of general culture is anything to go off of, it's not the same as it was back then. You could see this absurd stuff 5, even 10 years ago if you looked for it, but now it's bled into everything.
Is not donating going to do anything though? Because they get so much public funding.
Yeah, there's that.
I mean, you gotta. I don't know. I feel it's the same thing as people keep talking about this Bud Light thing and how not boycotting Bud Light isn't going to do anything because they own all these other things or whatever. And I'm like, well, yeah, but do something,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to talk about advertisement and all that sort of stuff too. And I guess we'll get to it. But Boghossian has an interest in you not donating those universities because he talked about it on Tim Pool this week that he's part of that Austin University that started up. He says they've already got $100 million in donations. And they're trying to really real deal start a non-woke university down there with him and Niall Ferguson and Steven Pinker and some different people. And but I don't know. It's definitely true of this university. This was his same university.
White guys.
What's that?
A bunch of white guys.
Oh yeah, bunch of white guys. This guy's a gay guy though, Charles Nagy, and he was getting fired because he was talking about. Well, listen to this. Listen to what they pulled out.
He's so white and cis.
Oh yeah, that's true. Charlie, what are you doing, you bonko? Listen to what they pulled out to get him fired, and it was ultimately just because he was pushing back on some woke stuff. But they dug through his history to get him fired. Listen to this.
Here's the story behind that. 10 years ago, I'm on vacation in Peru, South America.
Yeah.
I go to check in. I was going from Lima to El Salvador, and I go to check in at Copa Airlines, and some man says, "Do you have your yellow fever vaccination certificate?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You can't fly from South America to Central America without having that certificate." I said, "No, I don't. I didn't know this was even an issue." And I said, "Is there any way, I'm early, so any way I can go to get the shot really quickly?" He said, "No, you have to get it over 2 doses 10 days apart. So you're not going to be able to travel today." And I was upset. And he said, finally, he said, "Go down to the end of the airport. There's a clinic there. Maybe they can help you." I go down to the clinic airport and say, some guy just told me I can't fly from here to El Salvador without having this yellow fever certificate, and it happened to be done in 2 days, 10 days apart. Any way you can help me resolve this? She said, I'll take care of it.
How did they find out about that?
I'll get to that. I got to finish this story.
Okay,
So you know
yeah.
how bogus it is,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
freaking fraudulent it is.
Right. Well, the whole thing is fraud. They're
that's right.
they're frauds.
That's
they're
right.
complete charlatans.
That's right. So anyway, she, for $17, she gives me a shot. I don't know what she put in me. And she gives me a certificate and wrote that day's date on there as 1 dose, but she went ahead and put it that I had gotten another dose 10 days before, which is not true. I took it, went back to the Copa Airlines. The guy was gone. So I went up, checked in, showed the lady who actually attended to me, and she said, what is that? I said, I thought you guys needed to see this. She said, no, I don't. So I didn't know what was going on at the time. I fly to El Salvador. I'm ready to check in with immigration. I had that yellow fever certificate out, my passport. I said, we don't need to see that. So that's when I realized the whole thing was a kind of a shakedown, which happens a lot in Latin America and even in Africa too.
Yeah, I lived in Latin America.
So how do they know about it? Because it happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, when I cover Hispanics in Latin America, I talked about how there's a level of corruption that permeates much of society in Latin America. And I gave some examples. That was one of these examples. So Office of Institutional Equity got recordings from my students and heard that and thought, now we got him. He bribed a healthcare worker.
I have to say,
Oh my god, a healthcare worker, huh?
And they're getting him fired for that. Yeah. But it's all just because they didn't like that he just wasn't buying into the woke agenda stuff. But anyway, this Bogosian was on Tim Pool this week. I don't know. Did you guys see that at all?
I didn't watch it, but I saw it.
Yeah, I watched it.
Tim and Bogosian got in a long argument, although Bogosian always kind of keeps his street epistemology. You said you just subscribed to Bogosian, Empty Bedlam. Bogosian is the guy who came up with street epistemology that everybody uses. The guy who's now made street epistemology famous was interviewed by Delenn about a year ago now. His name's Anthony Magnabosco.
Yeah, we covered that one. Me and you about a year ago.
And Streeter brought up Bogosian on RFM just yesterday too. But Bogosian coming up with that thing, he's already been like canceled from most street epistemology circles, because not all of them, because they're not all that same way. And Marty, you run something that's kind of like those street epistemology circles, which is about just like having conversations and stuff.
A little bit. I've invited. So there's like a whole SE kind of atheist group-ish. I mean, Pine Creek's kind of part of that. And then, there's like, he actually hangs out with Anthony Magnabosco, like in real life. Actually, yeah, like I don't think.
I have no idea where Anthony stands because he stays so neutral. Like, if there's anybody who does stay neutral pretty darn well, it's Anthony Magnabosco.
Well, he just asks questions, and they're fairly, yeah. I think he's more left leaning. He's not conservative by any means. He's just,
the only thing that irritated me is Delenn started asking him about Bogosian and about what happened in the New Atheist Movement, and he pretended like he didn't know. And he knew good and well. And he knew good and well why Bogosian was canceled and all that stuff. But I think he just wanted to keep peace for that interview. But I think Magnabosco does a good job of staying pretty darn neutral in the world.
I met him at Thrive in Salt Lake, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm a big fan, because I've watched a bunch of his stuff. And I was like, you know what's weird though? Feels like everybody is left leaning here, and I still am pretty conservative. And he's like, oh, it'll come with time.
Oh, really?
That sounds like when you bring a friend to church, and you're like, oh, I'm John. I'm not a member. I'm Catholic or what. And there's always that guy who's like, we'll get you.
Well, there's a guy who's pretty darn famous in the.
What if I told you I was that guy, Jared?
I probably made that comment too.
We're gonna get you.
I mean, you already got me. I haven't been in that forever.
How is it that the guy that's hosting this? I guess it's being hosted remotely, but
yeah,
the guy that's. Hey, you guys want to see my? So I guess I need to have like this recurring segment of. The Woke Deseret Industries Book Club. So I'm going to show you my findings today. So in coming in bronze place, we got the Building a Green Movement and Changing the World.
That was a Deseret book.
That was $1, at DI.
The Young Activist Guides.
Oh, at DI.
Okay, and I don't know which one would be silver here, but maybe we'll just, I guess I'm gonna have to give it to Robin DiAngelo
Oh,
because
Have
it was $1.50 and it's paperback.
Have you read it?
I thumbed through it.
Oh, dude, I read that one a couple of years ago, and like it's more marked up in the margins than any pair of scriptures I ever had.
Okay, now if you guys had
power was off.
oh, you went to Desert Industries. You went to the DI.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I was thinking you were saying Desert Book. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I say Desert Book?
I was gonna say
DI?
no
No,
wonder
it's just
Jacob
what I
Hansen's
heard.
been on that fire Sherry do kick lately or whatever.
Okay, what are you guys' bets on gold here?
Gold,
Chris, I don't know if you.
if white fragility was silver, then I'd say that I don't know how to be an anti-racist.
Okay.
Anti-racist baby.
Okay.
Oh, I heard you.
Oh,
Well, I already know.
Pedagogy,
We're doing
pedagogy of
the
the oppressed.
The
I know what
DI
it is.
Woke Book Club, Chris. This is the bronze medal, goes to building a green movement and changing the world by Sharon J. Smith. That's a good one. Number 2.
Yeah, that was at
Okay.
DI.
Yeah. And it's only because it's in it's paperback. Okay. What's your guess for gold?
I know what it is. You told me. I
Oh,
can't
damn.
guess.
All right. Well,
No, they can.
Jared won.
Yeah.
Hardcover.
This
And I
is the
can
last.
tell. Here's the thing. I can tell nobody read it. Actually, both.
Really?
Both.
And they
Both
turned
of
it
these.
in.
Yeah,
They look
somebody.
pretty
They
nice.
probably were gifted it by some. woke
They're gifted it and they
member.
turned it in.
And then
Yeah, like their daughter went off to college and was like, "Hey, Dad, read this bullshit."
Yeah.
This is
And
my
now the
last.
church is
This was the
making money
last
off
thing. Last thing I got from DI.
I promise you
This
that
book.
if you pray in the name of Angela Davis, that you'll get a witness that you're a racist.
I listened to the Decoding the Gurus podcast that broke down her. They put her as a guru. I was kind of intrigued. They also think James Lindsay is a guru. So, anyways, I was thinking about that. Like, is it that we're pointing at like they're crazy, but we're not noticing the crazy on the other side?
I think definition of a guru, and it's why I would fundamentally disagree with them, is somebody who is teaching you that you need them to understand stuff and to constantly, like, you've got to always constantly turn back to them for, or are they giving you the stuff that's you
Don't
can
you
go
think
find it on
James
your
Lindsay
own.
does that a little bit though? Like, because a lot of people don't understand all this stuff, so it's like, oh, let's go see what James Lindsay.
Some people can use James Lindsay, but the reason I like James Lindsay and I vouched for James Lindsay is I was the person who had read all that. Like, there was a point in my time where I daydreamed that I could go be the James Lindsay in the sense of I could go tell people about all this crap, but I'd have to do a whole lot of work. And it was before I'd read a ton of the stuff before James Lindsay ever cracked one of the books. But then when he cracked it and started telling it to people, he was telling people what was in the books. And that's why I vouched him. Like, he's saying what's in there. That's what's in there. You can go look. Like, don't take his word for it. Go look at it. Go look. Like, that whole entire Cynical Theories book, you can go check it against the real work. You can 100% go check it against the real work. Like, you can even skip it and just go read the real work instead. But if you don't want to read the 17, at least, the 30, 40, 50 different main works books, you can skip it and read that. And like, a lot of times, like when James Lindsay reads, like when he did, Kevin brought up like Marcuse the other day, James Lindsay read the entire essay on repressive tolerance. He read tons of portions out of One Dimensional Man to you. He read, like, he's regurgitating exactly what they're saying. They say he shouldn't be commenting on it. Oh, it's bad to comment on it afterwards because then he steers you. But he's reading the exact direct words and exact direct works. So maybe you don't have to go sit there and do it. But that's where I disagree with it. Like a guru, like white fragility, you need to turn back to them forever to repent of what you don't realize is always constant racism. And you're supposed to re-examine yourself daily and check back in with them because you can't get on top of it. There's no getting on top of it.
There's no forgiveness.
That
Yeah.
That's a guru. You got to turn back to them every day.
The only
forever.
forgiveness
James
is
Lindsay,
your
you-
activism.
James
Yeah, I guess-
Lindsay, you could
guess
cut
how
out forever and just go read the main book. Like,
Yeah, I guess how would you define guru that would capture James Lindsay, but it wouldn't capture like every YouTuber?
Right, and I get that. They point at also how he does his presentations. Like you can pay him to come speak and stuff, or come do a training, and so they're pointing at that because Robin DiAngelo is doing the same thing where you pay her to come and tell you. And I don't know. I thought they did an okay job.
this,
I was-
so
Go ahead.
this book here has got a chapter on critical race theory. You can skip this chapter, even it says you can skip this chapter entirely, and just go ahead and read this entire book, which is a slog, you know. But you
read
don't need the cynical theories, right? You don't need it. Like,
Yeah. No, it was just a thought. It's hard for me to not see like the mirror stuff going on, and I tend to agree with you, but I also am all blinded by where I lean too. You know.
Yeah, you're the Lex Friedman of the ex-Mormon podcasting world.
wow, how dare you? But I mean, the way I am, because like I listen to, there's good critiques of James Lindsay, and Kevin and I listen to them, but they're not coming from those goofballs who barely listen to him. I mean, the people who come in to critique him, they hardly listen to anything of him. But then he gets harder critiques from people like Aaron McIntyre and those types of guys, and they come at him hard. And that's because they are also critical of liberalism, and they actually read him and listen to him. Whereas these other people, they've got like such like a vague general knowledge. James Lindsay puts way more time into who he's criticizing than they put into who they're criticizing.
But it
Way
has
more.
nothing to do with it, any of
Way,
that.
way, way
It's
more.
all artificial intelligence and algorithms.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Boghossian and Tim Pool had a large argument, and Tim Pool thinks none of this comes from academia or theories. He thinks it all was just algorithmically created.
See, I guess I've never thought too much about how I define guru, and it's always been contextual. And when I think of a guru, I think of somebody who spews out dumb platitudes, and it usually
Like
has
Jordan Peterson?
some amount of mysticism involved. I think Jordan Peterson spits out dumb platitudes.
No, but
Get outta here.
you could see how someone would definitely see him that way.
I put guru in the level of a presented expert who cannot give you enough knowledge to become the expert yourself. You always have to rely on them. You always have to go back to them and rely on them. They must be part of the situation. Whereas a teacher is somebody who you can catch up to or surpass because it's all knowledge that's accessible.
Yeah.
Like I say,
Your other
in the fitness world, there's fitness gurus, and there's a lot of from like every single like low down level. I just barely was training a guy this week. He might be listening, but one of the things I say to people is like, I can teach you everything you need to know about lifting in 2-3 sessions at most. Whereas most trainers and most of those like paradigms on how to train and train better are built on not really giving you the full information. You got to keep coming back to them for the program. But they got to do that because if not, they're not going to be able to keep your employment.
Yeah, that's maybe if they sell things in like multi-$1,000 packages that are a year-long contract, maybe that's when I would call them a guru.
Yeah. I think it's easy to label anybody, like you were saying, Jared, like it's easy to label anyone a guru if you don't like them.
I'm thinking of most like people in the homeopathic, like that's what I always think of when I think of guru. So I just don't have a really great definition of it. It feels like the word cult kind of.
There's Kimball. Kimball and I lifted together this weekend, and one session's a bit hard, but it shouldn't. But 3 sessions is too much. You know, people can keep coming back for a little bit extra information, but you don't need some trainer to be with you for 6 months or a year or something like that. But the way they do it is that they don't feed you the general information to know how to do it. They just kind of say, here's the program, here's the next thing, come back to me for more next time, and I've got the magic.
So I guess to answer, going back a little bit, our Milo question, it looks like yesterday he had, or 2 days ago, he had a debate with Destiny, and I guess Milo was drunk. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be interesting to look at, but that's
Yeah. So one of the things, there was that debate between Boghossian and Tim Pool about where all the wokeness originated, which Tim Pool thinks it's algorithmically.
Why does he think that? Because I think it's pretty clear it's academia. Like,
because Tim Pool's wrong, but he's not wrong that it didn't like fast forward it into the population. Flip, I thought you were making it tonight.
Yeah, they called me in for an emergency rehearsal, but they only needed me for a couple of numbers, and they let me go because the rest of it is all just drums, drums, and drums.
Sweet.
But if we're gonna shit on James Lindsay, one of my criticisms of Lindsay is there's a lot of times where he says these people belong in prison, and I'm like, for what? You know? Because like I agree that like these teachers, educators, and stuff, where it's like they shouldn't be allowed in their jobs, like that they should be removed. You know, but like, for so many years, when people said, Donald Trump belongs in jail, and I would say, like, what are the charges? Tell me. Yeah. And obviously that stops them right there, because what are you talking about?
Yeah, you've been hanging out with Charlie Kirk too much.
Lindsay says hyperbolic things all the time, and I think that criticism is 100% true. But he also
that's
says
the one place where I really.
He admits it's part of his MO to do that, but that he's just going to do it. But because he's trying to be a wrecking ball on like some level. But Lindsay is not good at dealing with criticism from the dissident right people. He just loses his mind and freaks out and just like, shut up, you guys are idiots, and like shuts off to him. And sometimes they have criticisms that he needs to hear. So one of the other debates that was happening on that side is wokeness communism's fault or is wokeness liberalism's fault? And those guys have been trying to debate it, and James Lindsay just won't even start with it. He won't even have it.
Honestly, whenever you get into the whose fault is it and somebody starts blaming liberalism, I've gotten into the debate with the hard right guys before. They say like all of this degeneracy is liberalism's fault, and I'm like, okay, liberalism is a system that kind of just it maximizes freedom, so of course it's going to allow people to like. Did you believe in freedom up until people use that freedom to do stupid things? Because then you didn't really believe in liberty in the first place, so you weren't really a liberal. You just thought everybody was going to be smart.
Yeah. Well, I saw there was a really good podcast today with Vocal Distance and Boyce and Vanderklay and Pajau. And one of the things they talked about is liberalism is supposed to be a conflict resolution system, and maybe not like an entire ideology. And maybe that sort of thing gets mixed up when you start trying to turn it into your entire positive worldview. The way Vanderklay said it is like medicine and food aren't the same thing. And but I don't know, those guys who are bringing up that complaint, they do have some points. And I've told people to look up Christopher Caldwell's book a lot. And Christopher Caldwell's book gets into the concept that the Civil Rights Act really did act like a second constitution. It changed the Constitution, and it started in the era of entitlement. His book's called The Age of Entitlement, and it changed things up. And what even Lindsay's pointed to is a lot of what the current critical whatever theory is, what Thomas Sowell calls it, hanging on to affirmative action things like with the lifeline. Like you've got to increase and continue and scream out and act out every single one of those possible disparities because we got to keep the money flowing. And that comes from this neoliberal post-civil rights, whatever, Speaking of which, let me get these other two off the screen. This is the lady Benjamin Boyce interviewed this lady who is she's getting fired in Canada, and they said it's because she is committing what we called the show today, epistemicide. And the epistemicide is because she was just doubting some of the epistemologies of Indian nations or First Nations, as they call it in where did it go? I don't have anything to click here. Here it is.
I showed up to another event on Zoom about epistemicide and land-based learning was the topic.
Epistemicide? Like what happened to Jeffrey Epstein?
So this raises a question about what these things are and how they're related to one another. And so my question was, because there's all this talk about epistemicide, all this talk about land-based learning, and neither of those two things is very clear as to what they are. And I guess I could have asked, what is epistemicide or what is land-based learning or like whatever. But
so then she's also getting fired for doing street epistemology. They said she asked too many questions. If you want to listen to that whole entire episode. And that created epistemicide. So you can't be Socrates and you can't ask too many questions and you can't doubt epistemologies. And I was thinking about this a lot when they were going over the wooden tools and the steel tools in the podcast with RFM yesterday. Just going
That's a perfect example, though, that supports all the criticisms against Lindsay. Is that through liberalism or that wokeness is being born? I mean,
it's getting it's like a zombie suit.
We kind of talked about it before, but like I personally think that it's a combination of both. But
yeah, that's what's frustrating about it is in all those arguments, the one with Bogosian and Tim, and the one with those Peter Godfrey and James Lindsay, is that they're both right. Like it's not just communism, not just like everything that ever happened in the world is why we're in this predicament. That's part of what.
Hey, let's not forget the corporatism.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big one.
And then it's absolutely for sure social media ramped it up and created a feedback loop of all this stuff. But it also is absolutely sure that it came out of academia and whatever. This lady, Amy Wax, she's another one getting fired out of University of Pennsylvania or Penn State, I think. And they said that she said some evil, naughty non-thoughts. And some of it was just that she talked about being traditional marriage and all that sort of deal. And
do what you want, except what everyone else has done forever.
Yeah. So got those out of the way. Did you guys see anything about? We'll go to Crowder for it.
Can you see my screen share? I wanted to do the.
Hold on.
Well,
go ahead. I'll come back to it.
This is just, this is a total aside, but because we're language nerds and we're talking about First Nations, has anybody seen the Canadian syllabic alphabet? Because it's one of the coolest things ever.
Mm-mm.
I tried to share my screen. Is that working?
No, I don't see it.
What the hell? Why?
Maybe I've got too many screens on.
I think it does. Look up Canadian syllabic.
Oh, I found it. Awesome. I've got to scroll down.
It's a neat alphabet because the shapes are the consonants. And then you orient them to indicate the vowel. It's brilliant.
Huh.
That's all. It's just cool because I know we're a lot of language nerds. But
I thought that was Reformed Egyptian.
No, yeah, that's.
It looks like the language that. It looks like the language that Ted Danson created in Fargo.
No, but but that was developed as a writing system for various Canadian native languages, and it's with all the benefit of 10,000 years of writing, that's what they come up with, and it's really brilliant because it's incredibly efficient and simple.
That's cool.
Anyway,
so
is he going over that guy that reverts to
code switching? Code switching is like talking about these performative ways of being, and
the best one is when you watch Hillary Clinton try to do that because she's really, really bad at it.
Oh yeah, he's got that on.
AOC's done a couple of them where she gets down. She talks like a valley girl, and then all of a sudden she gets up on the stage. Listen here, New York, we need to band together.
Yeah, I saw a tweet on that.
It's coming up.
Screen isn't up, Chris.
What's going on?
Chris, the screen's not up.
We're podcasters.
I think he's just watching it, and
What's that?
we're just looking at ourselves right now.
Mm.
The screen's not up, is what I'm saying.
I didn't bring it up. Oh
No, you're just watching it by yourself and chuckling.
It's good stuff.
Why does it say that it's showing in
I bet it was real funny though.
View tab in StreamYard? What the hell?
I think that was the
I'm sure.
most awkward silence from this in our whole podcasting history here.
It's the
You guys
most
you should have talked amongst yourselves. They should have brought up talking about the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Coffee talk.
I wasn't listening
Did we
close
drop
enough
the
to
bomb
right
on
before
Japan?
that. You were waiting for something to be like. I was
we
like,
should do
Is that showing now?
yeah, it's
There we
Do
go.
you guys remember Coffee Talk? Talk
Yeah.
amongst yourselves.
Coffee talk.
Coffee Talk. Did we drop the bomb on Japan to defeat the Japanese or scare the Russians? Talk amongst yourselves.
Mhm. There's one where I said he mentions the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir is neither Mormon nor tabernacle. Discussed amongst yourselves.
For class president in college in 2016. This is what he sounded like. Then.
Hey everybody, I'm Justin J. Pearson, and I'm running for president of PSG. There are a few reasons
loved
that
him
we're
in
running this
Dead Poets
campaign this
Society.
year. One has to do with representation. How can we represent all voices in a conversation?
You ain't fall for the banana.
I love the way he's using his hands there.
Tailpipe.
By partnering with organizations from the Boone Democrats to the Boone Republicans, I want to bring together different voices, dissenting voices.
You mean the ones in your
more
head?
liberal or more conservative.
My grandmother, yeah, he's such a nice colored
the
guy.
radical middle.
She used the word color. I'm like, Grandma, you can't say that.
And growth happens.
No, yeah, you can. You can say people of color. And that brings us to now. And this is like if you on children's placemats, it's like, hey, spot the 6 differences. Also, it's also like navigate your way through the maze. Also, you might as well just tear up the placemat and throw a hot coffee in your lap and squirt your dick, because this is about what this segment is going to feel like. See if you can spot the difference. Here is Pearson now celebrating his triumphant return to the State House yesterday.
To the well. I believe in a division.
That is an uncoordinated man. What a phony.
He's been taken over by the spirit. You see,
Of Sam Kinison?
yeah, but watch what he's doing here. If you don't,
You know what this
if you
is?
don't say Jesus' name,
This is the first time I have ever seen a black person doing blackface.
What about Larry Elder?
Well, he's the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah, he's the blackface of white supremacy. He's white adjacent. He's
This
white
guy
on
is
the inside.
this guy's like making fun of black stereotypes. I felt democracy die a little bit that
Yeah, no,
day.
Yeah, you were not from Mississippi, you jackass.
Minding their own business, and they got hit by media. I'm not sitting here, some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette. She called distraught, saying her life was going to be ruined. Whether they're living in rural Iowa,
I think that's just talking about her
New York, or anywhere else.
southern accent suddenly.
Anywhere else?
wasn't she doing a Tammy Wynette?
Where did they?
Did they,
Where-
did
here
they
she
lose
is.
Dave Landau?
Yeah, Dave left.
Because he was the only actual funny person on that show.
They've got he's not on there all the time, but they got Nick DiPaolo now. Nick DiPaolo.
Oh, wow, he's genuine talent.
As your grandmother would say, colored.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
Oh boy.
Nobody
You needed to
told
run that a
me
couple
that
more
the
times.
road would be easy.
And not
Probably
just,
did. They probably ran it a bunch of times. I ain't in no ways tired.
Then I have to
Kamala,
do the week of
the-
rehearsals in here, like, let's do it again. Let's run it again. Let's run it again. Like, if I were her campaign manager, I'd be like, no, let's run that one again.
Like, I didn't know you could simultaneously sound like a black pastor and like a mom who is telling me for the 5th time to take out the fucking trash.
Well, where's the AL? I don't know if the ALC stuff's there, but ALC's done every version of everything.
You ain't
Nothing
black.
wrong with preparing the food that your neighbors will eat.
I had a nightmare today.
You ain't black.
A code switching connoisseur. Here she is trying to connect with black voters again with a fake accent.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working retail, folding clothes for other people to buy.
Ugh.
It's so
I'm waiting for one of them to go.
so shameless.
You need to play that TikTok that you shared with me after I
Which
sent you
one?
that article. The one.
Oh, I'll pull it up.
I'm waiting for one of them to
That's
go
what
like
this is
way.
reminding me of.
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
I'm waiting for
I'll
one of them to
lead
go
into
like
this.
way too far back and just be like, "We need to fix the democracy, mister."
Basically, I don't know that Hillary sounds that different than that.
She does it.
We finna fix democracy.
And she had that other one that like she's like, I got my hot sauce in my purse and all that stuff when she was on like a podcast. But hold on, let me pull this one up. But it's not like Dylan Mulvaney's not a little bit the same thing. And that was going to lead into the advertisement stuff.
I'm so sick of Dylan Mulvaney. Like, I'm just like, let's stop talking, and then maybe it'll go away.
I remember like 35 years ago when I was a little kid, and 25 years ago when I was a teenager, and they talked about how stereotypes aren't good, and you shouldn't stereotype people. And Dylan Mulvaney is a stereotype of a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a stupid,
not even a good
girl.
one.
But I just don't care. Like, I
just like feather dresses and the outside. Ooh, it's gross.
Yeah, it's like doing a blackface and woman face.
It really is like that thing where they call it women face. Like that is nailing it on the head. What Dylan Mulvaney's doing.
So here's
just don't understand why poor white people in rural areas keep voting for Republicans. It's like you're literally voting against your own best interest. Greetings, racist idiots. I've come to save you from yourselves. Me politician. Me help you stop be ignorant. Make money. Do you know what money is? Or do you trade like deer antlers? I would literally rather replace every organ in my body with broken glass than spend another 4 minutes in your shitty town. And you can tell, just being physically proximate to you people makes me profoundly nauseous. I've already broken out in hives all over my entire Pilates-toned body. You are everything that's wrong with this country, and that's why I need you to vote for me. If you can figure out how to read the ballot. Do you have reading and writing here?
What is that accent? That's not a real accent.
It's the Madonna accent. It's the Madonna.
Well, I think she was goofing on Hillary Clinton types who are like calling people deplorables, but
Well, no, it's funny because they're all trying to like connect with their voters while they come to the town for 5 seconds, but really they despise them. Like they don't actually like them.
Like I grew up in a house where my mom had an accent, so I've always been around people who talk different, and so I know better than to I know that you can.
It wasn't playing on the accent so much; it's why they're doing the accent.
Oh, this. See,
I thought she was trying to be a dork.
You didn't see this ad
ever a can with my face on it.
Oh, I thought they sent you a gift of.
Oh, that's where he goes. He can't say stuff on YouTube now. But this is the CEO talking about.
Who reflect you in the work, and we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of
shut up,
bratty, kind of out of touch humor, and it was really important that we had
she knows humor.
Another approach.
So it came out that she was a former frat party attender. Like there's all these videos of her going to all these frat parties at Harvard. But
no, like research. What kind of naked stereotyping bigotry is that? Bud Light is a beer. Now I'm a big fan of beer, and in fact, I am kind of a polemicist in that, like, there's this whole I can't think of the word now, but there's a whole trope that Bud Light is bad beer. Bud Light tastes like piss. And I think, no, it's fine. Like Bud Light is to beer as Wonder is to bread. It tastes like as little as possible, and that's the point. And it's fine. But like this lady's taking this into this whole other realm and turning it into, like, seriously, like the way she's talking about Bud Light and the people who drink Bud Light, is exactly like any racist white supremacist talking about fried chicken and watermelon. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So there's all the images.
In both cases, I like Bud Light, I like fried chicken, and I like watermelon. And it has nothing to do with anything else. It's just good stuff. Heck, now
there's all the images of her frat partying at Harvard, and then I don't know how you get into like that position at that age. I guess unless you go to Harvard.
I don't know. I'm always stunned by the people who make decisions. I mean, the place I work, and I don't say it, but like, because the lady that runs my whole operation is younger than me. And the few decisions she's made are the most unbelievable, stupid, insulting, backward, expensive, unnecessarily expensive. I can't understand. It's unfathomable.
Oh yeah, we've got people that are so dumb they don't know how to do their job, and then they're like, "We don't know what to do with you." You can train people how to do the job.
Yeah, no, like this is like if you have the right demographic, you just fail upward. In fact, geez, I'm thinking of the person when I worked with Chris at the Salt Palace. There is a woman that went from the bottom to the top and out the door in like 3 years, in just an unbelievable failing ever upward. It's incredible. That'll last.
Jared and I were on with Jonathan Streeter last Friday about doing a 2 + 2 = 5 podcast, and somebody asked, how is postmodernism used in advertisement? And it threw me through a little bit of a loop, because there's the postmodern critique, and then there's the postmodernism applied. And so like you start thinking, am I thinking of a critique of advertisement from postmodernism, or am I thinking of how it's applied? But I said it in the podcast, but I didn't really emphasize it. But part of the wackadoo point of all this stuff is it's true with those politicians and all that stuff too. The way stuff changed, especially since 2016, is you used to think of the world as people were kind of doing a bit of a scientific process of trying to figure out what you liked and give that to you and become popular through giving to you and the people what they liked. There's been just a huge change, which you could call a postmodern change, is that no, we're going to change you to like what we want you to like. And that's the great big applied change that's going on. And it seems like
I just Googled Bud Light sales drop, and the first thing was a Newsweek fact check. And there's like 18 paragraphs of fluff, and then they show the graphs in the drop and the fact that like their market share has dropped and all this crap. And then you get to the very bottom, and ruling is unverified. Oh,
unverified. The apologetics that I've heard.
All the evidence is that this is, and I'm sure it'll be temporary.
Because everybody's critiquing it and saying like, we got to go after this one. We got to really take it, make it, kick them in the dick. We're gonna all come together and really, because conservatives never really actually do this. But you can go look at the sales of Gillette right now. Where do you think Gillette's at?
Oh yeah,
Gillette's doing fine.
Yeah, no, they bounce back. Like they did get the drop, and the other thing is nobody learns their lesson. That's what we'll see.
Yeah, or it's just lazier, or maybe they don't want to be as constantly political, or can't be as constantly political as the hyper activists are of them.
Well, I mean that is the whole thing. Like, I mean, that's the criticism. Like the basic criticism is like, you make a cheap light beer. Just do that, and you'll be fine. Like this is I've been having this fight with Major League Soccer. I'm a Brazilian. I'm a soccer fan from the beginning. But this year Major League Soccer made it so that you have to buy the soccer games for $20. I think $20 pays for the whole thing. I don't know, from Apple TV. I'm just like, fuck no, not after the last 3 years. But because of all of the political virtue signaling and all that, and I think I've been. In fact, I don't get the notifications anymore. I've probably been shadow unsubscribed. But for the longest time, every time Real Salt Lake published some stupid woke bullshit, I would say the same thing. Your job is to play soccer. Just do that. Just play soccer. And do better, because you guys suck right now. And you'll be fine. But like, you know, I mean, I've said this so many times, but like, I've been a fan of women's soccer since the 90s, simply because I'm a fan of soccer. All the soccer you can give me, I'll take. But like over the last few years, like the whole women's soccer world, it just keeps flipping me the bird and telling me that I'm a piece of shit. I'm like, oh, okay, that's my thanks for 20 fucking years of loyalty? Really? Is to tell me that I'm a sexist? Okay, you can go to hell. I was a season ticket holder for the first year of the Utah Royals. And then they told me that I'm a piece of shit. Well, fine. I'll take the message.
Flip and I, the super sexist, went to.
I got into a discussion about Brie Larson with somebody who was kind of having some sympathy for her, right? Because, you know, and I get where he was coming from. He's talking about, oh, imagine this way: you're going to be the next Robert Downey Jr. They're setting you up to be Iron Man. You're the center. You're the strongest. All this stuff, and then like they just rip the rug out from under you, and all of a sudden you're like the third string in your own damn movie. And I was like, yeah, that would suck.
Keep doing that. They keep doing that.
That would suck. Also, I would feel more bad for her if she wasn't such a massive asshole to like half of her fans. Like it's like she's that meme of the kid riding the bike who shoves a sticks in his own spokes.
Yeah.
She's like screaming at her male fans that like, this movie isn't for you, males. And then she immediately gets mad and like, this movie flopping. Well, it didn't flop. She's like,
but that's been one of the confusing things of like, why are all these companies thinking that like going harsh at a certain type of person is the way to go?
This movie isn't for you, core demographic.
Yeah,
I know. Like it is
because they think. Well, there was a concept that they're supposed to expand. They're supposed to expand to make it also appealing to the transgender people, but they can't help but also dunk on the people who were the previous fans. Like, I kind of feel like the past 10 years, they could have done like a more subtle, actually inclusive thing. Like, it still would have been their activism, but they could have said, hey, we like you, Star Wars fans, and we want all the women. But no, they had to dunk on the men and say we want all the women. You're like, well, why'd you have to do that? You know, and
I think the reason they can't learn is because it's systemic activism.
Yeah. Marty, you're the living middle ground fallacy.
There it is.
It flips the don't need a guru. So I have to turn the flip to keep away from gurus. Tucker had the guy. Tucker had the guy that lobbied corporations to push gay marriage on, and he apologized for unleashing this woke corporatism.
Really?
Yeah, it is a corporatism. So what's so wacky about it, like I was saying, is like it is like they think that they're supposed to change the society now. Like I remember like when Donald Trump won, and you see the Democrats, and you think, well, guess you guys got to change your message for next time, and it was all nope. We're just going to triple down on all of our messages and then just try to attack anybody and make them feel bad for not having accepted it the first time.
I really thought that Clinton lost that election with the basket of deplorables. Like, I think if there's any one moment that was it, but they didn't learn. But, you know, the other thing that's so disgusting about that whole election that bothers me so much is that I don't know any Democrats personally, or did I see any in the media that turned on Clinton after the Bernie thing? Like, I heard some noise on Twitter, like, and I don't even have Twitter. I just mean like, you know, kind of like peripheral noise about it. But like the mainstream, they just didn't even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and also the fact that like those leaks proved that, you know, the Democratic Party subverted democracy.
Well, they only announced it like on the cover of Time and all that stuff. We fortified the election.
Oh, yeah, that too. But that's things like, you know, it's like the Democratic Party, like Bernie was like the popular pick. Like the Democrat in the primary, Bernie was the pick, and then the party pulled all that bullshit to make Hillary the pick because they're entirely corrupt.
So what do you kids want to cover? You want to look at the guy who needs a sabbatical, catastrophize the Hawaii thing, or
the Hawaii disaster?
The disaster. Or do you want to look at Jonathan Streeter? And
I wanted to talk about wooden tools. I have a funny story about that. I was going to wait till it came up.
It came up.
I sent a text to my neighbor last night, and I accidentally sent her a link to that video.
Uh-oh. It's what
Oh.
and what did that do?
She's
I immediately said, oops. And she's like, oh, no worries. She's really cool. But I
She
feel
LDS?
really, really bad. Yeah.
Oh.
All my neighbors are.
Hey, by the way, as a builder, as a carpenter, as a wood craftsman, you can make a lot of good tools that are very useful out of wood.
Oh my
Are
goodness.
they an acronym for something?
You
Are they good?
postmodernist.
Are they good
Get
for
outta here,
deconstruction?
You've been reading too many of those books that you're getting from the DI, man.
Show us your
Yeah, go,
best stuff.
go deconstruct some houses.
Can you be a deconstruction? What is it?
I deconstructed a
Make
deck
that-
earlier this week.
That bridge with
Contractor.
no nails that's in Turkey that's 300 years old. Can you give us one of those?
Yeah. So the first couple hours we're talking about just kind of strong epistemological tools versus weak epistemological.
I did listen to all of this just because, like, you guys teased the moment when he talks about Dan McClellan being wood. Like,
Did you watch the whole thing? Or?
I didn't even watch it. I was just listening, but I just the pause, and I was like,
Well, I mean, I think because he mentioned this postmodernism. I don't know if you guys know what postmodernism is. Let me give you like a brief description of what that is. Do you know what postmodernism is? Here it is.
So recognize the one true truth is mistaken, but the whole
Speaking
idea
of gurus,
philosophy, as I understand it, is that everybody views anything through their own context, through their own upbringing, through their own psychology, through their own life
Precisely.
experience and their own lens. And you get what are there 4 million Mormons? You get 4 million Mormons. You get 4 million different gospels of Mormonism.
So that's what postmodernism. You guys ever heard of postmodernism?
Postmodern philosophy.
So, oh, that's the wrong one. Did I lose the RFM one? No, I did not. Present, share screen. Present it. I'm going to present it. I can't do a Martin.
Brothers and sisters, I come to you today to share with you that Mormonism is lost and it is leading our youth astray.
did you ever see the In Living Color where they did
the guy who would
Jim Carrey and Damon Wayans did the preachers?
No.
Oh yeah, I thought you were referring to the. Remember what that when Damon Wayans was in prison and he'd always be the guy who'd start talking about whatever sort of wackadoo black supremacist ideology stuff, and he would do that thing I tell you the Sopranos do. He'd misuse all these words. And, and talk about black supremacist stuff while trying to sound super educated. You guys ever see this?
Kind of like Michael Eric Dyson does.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to act like Don King here for a little bit, in spirit only, which is, are you guys willing to accept a debate challenge? Because just this week, a debate challenge was thrown down, the gauntlet on the floor for you, Bill Reel, and Radio Free Mormon to debate one Jacob Hansen and his counterpart at the. He is an up and coming. Not Midnight Mormons, just a different thing. If you go to
is that the Money Unstable
or something like that? It's like one of those YouTube channels.
Radio Free Mormon says.
My favorite part when Radio Free Mormon goes, wait a minute, is that the mentally unstable one?
I want to know who that one is. Like,
no, that's who he's talking about. Bill gets a little flustered, I think, because I think that's exactly who he was talking about.
He is referring to Jacob.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Jacob
sure.
is not mentally unstable. He's just Mormon.
He's abrasive.
No,
he's
he's
abrasively. What I appreciate about Jacob Hansen is he's abrasively what I thought most people thought Mormonism was.
Jacob to me just seems down the middle of Mormonism and willing to say it all out loud.
But it's wild to me that people keep losing their minds that he keeps saying that stuff out loud and saying.
It kind of feels like all those people.
What did I hear him say recently? He basically was saying that if he didn't believe in God, then he would I don't know. Like Kevin, do you agree with that? If you didn't have your belief in God, you would feel like there was no morality? And it's all about power. Like, why does there have to be a God for that?
Okay,
Like,
so
why
here's
for objective morality.
my take is that it's something that transcends anything else that can be, anything that man can come up with. And so in my mind, I think in the purest form, I agree with that.
But if you can't know if God exists or what God is, and the best that religions have done is kind of embody it, but they've done a crappy job, then why does that thing go away once you say, oh no, you've embodied that wrong? You've claimed that that's something that it's not, but that doesn't mean that thing goes away, right? Like,
how do you mean?
Yeah, you lost me in the metaphor.
Yeah. I don't know. This is an interesting.
See,
thing.
that's. I mean, it just comes down to faith at that point to me.
See, there we go. Like that's what
I
appreciate about Kevin.
Because here's the thing: you're never going to be able to prove it, one way or the other.
Right.
That's it's the old Hitch
and that's
thing.
where I just
do yourself a favor and call it faith. Because as soon as Kevin says faith, I have to throw my hands up and say, well, okay, Because this thing was like Jacob, because he posted that thing, and every time Jacob says something about atheists, I repeat my worn old comment: atheism has no opinion on anything except one question, the existence of God. And I finally got Jacob to respond, and this time he said, well, okay, materialist. So I just said, what is a materialist? And I never got a response. Whatever.
Well, the thing is, because I think he is kind of going after the people who add a morality on top of it, and then what do they justify that in?
Yeah, it kind of feels. But I get what he's saying, because a lot of times it kind of feels like there's almost an atheist belief set. Like I get that at its purest essence, it's supposed to just be a lack of belief in God. But
you have faith in atheism plus.
Yeah, my beef is not just with Jacob and people and the Midnight Mormons who are constantly grinding their axe about atheism incorrectly, but also all the atheists who keep saying, like, well, as an atheist, I believe that we should have universal health care. Like, motherfucker, you're using the goddamn word wrong.
So this is part of one of the points of that is that if you get deep enough into philosophy and moral philosophy, you find out that down at the bottom of anything is a circular argument, which ultimately means everybody is doing what Nietzsche claims they're doing. You're standing on a power claim, whereas the God people will kind of displace that and say, well, but our power claim is a God, so it's outside, and that God is an authority. But all the other claims of these are what our axioms are. There has to just be an assertion at some point. That's all there is to it. And that assertion can either be a God or the power claim. That's really ultimately true.
I think that's basically what he's getting at, is that
some power people will say, but that God is just a power claim too.
Yeah, he's kind of just talking about like objective morality, generally speaking, because I've seen him do two different things, and one of them I pretty much agree with, and then the other one a little shaky on. The one that I pretty much agree with is that it's really, really difficult, probably impossible, to have an objective morality without some type of a deity. But the part that I don't quite get behind is when he does say that, like, you can't, I don't know. I don't know if he said that you can't be a moral person without God. I think he's probably said that, like, I would be an immoral person without God, and that's fine. I think most of these people believe that you can be a moral person without God. It's just that you happen to be obeying God's commands or whatever. I don't know.
So Troy did have a good discussion with him. He brought up Hume, and he pulls what I pull from a whole lot too, which is ultimately what Peterson pulls from. It's just he might use different language, and that's looking towards evolution and what has survived over time, and you get some objective claims from that over long periods of time, and that's what a lot of different people pull from. I know Seth was on Uber Mormon last week. He had a good episode on that, and he'll kind of add into it some ideas of like game theory and stuff that you can do to it, and maybe kind of work around. Sam Harris tries to make like this meta well-being, like look at all these different types of things like we can accumulate, which is kind of like the ultimate super uber technocratic utilitarian claim, which those are all kinds of things of trying to get around what general philosophies say, and all those philosophies like Aristotle and Plato, and most people kind of stem off of Aristotle and Plato, always stem back to a thing that has like a pyramid that has a one at the top, which is ultimately kind of like a god or a power claim or something. And but the other thing is you can look back at what's his freaking name, Descartes, even Aristotle talked about it, or Quine, WVO Quine, and a lot of them talk about those systems still are ultimately circular. They stand on their self because they declare the philosophy is something they can stand on their own with. And but you can call that thing down at the bottom of it some sort of like scientific leaning or group approval or group agreement, but you can also take the Nietzsche idea and say it's ultimately a power. It's an assertion, a power assertion. But Nietzsche would also say that the God thing is also just a power assertion and is the same thing. You're just calling it something else. Marty's got something to share. But present, share screen. Oh goodness.
Where podcast?
The stuff gets super hard, and part of why it's hard is because nobody's figured out, nobody's ever jumped that is-ought gap. Really, you can kind of do it, but that's why I think Troy is somewhat right, which is I think Peterson points it too. But Peterson's point is religion's kind of been like a makeshift version of us testing evolution over long periods of times and kind of hazily putting it into. Can I share this link with Jacob?
I just learned that I can see the comments in the StreamYard tab, and I don't have to tab over to YouTube.
You did? I thought you had a link for me to share, Marty.
No. I want.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking. Well, I didn't want to like broadcast. Anyway, I'll just.
Oh yeah, Jacob knows. I mean, yeah, you can say what's up, Jacob. He knows that, and we also told Jacob about this last moment with because he was calling for the debate, and then Jonathan went on and said, "Well, I did my part. I called for the debate." And let's see here.
Channels, and he's been making inroads in having discussions about Mormonism and pushing back probably more fiercely and forcefully than even the Mennonite Mormons, and willing to engage people. And he's issued you a challenge to a debate, terms to be set forthwith.
This is the point about Jacob, because Troy did have a good conversation with him and all that stuff. But the point is, like, I think Jacob would scramble these guys up if they're not ready. Like the same way I saw Dillahunty get scrambled up by people. It's like if they're not kind of really ready for the moral philosophy debates and haven't read up on that stuff, they'll get sideswiped.
Do you know what the problem is, though? Is they both want, like, I think it would be interesting to have some kind of conversation where we spend half the time on the strongest point that they're wanting to spend time on, and then the other half on the
100%. That's my point. And I think atheists or nobody should be afraid of it. You shouldn't be afraid of, we're going to be on the hot seat now. Okay, now it's your turn on the hot seat. Let's swap.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's something. I personally don't have a problem with it, because I feel like I can have faith in a higher level God just as much as like a personal God, that I was taught when I was growing up. But
well, I don't at all stress out about just admitting or running with the concept of like, yeah, I'm coasting on the morality that of the soup that I was raised in, for sure. That doesn't hurt me at all, to say.
Yeah, but do you ever feel bad that you aren't like putting back in, like you're using up the energy, but you're not like reviving, keeping it?
Yes. Yeah. I do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like my my general stance is that the world, America, would probably be a better place if everybody like went to church. But if that's going to be my stance, then I should probably go to church, and I just don't really want to.
Yeah, that's the thing I always avoid, is because, I remember very early in my atheism thing, the whole thing is like, well, church is good for people that aren't me.
Yeah, no, you're like putting yourself on this higher plane, and it was Peter Hitchens that said it. He just said that like somebody asked him, like, how do you know if your church is true or whatever? He's like, true? What are you talking about? Church attendance is the tax you pay to live in a civilized society. And I was like, well, maybe, I don't know.
Peter mentions it's so great.
I think there's some truth to that, but how do you participate at a church when, like, the ones...
I don't know. I can't participate in a church that I don't believe in, and I don't know how to believe in any church.
Yeah.
And there's a level too that I have this fundamental belief. It's what I generally argue for, because I generally think there's certain religious traditions and religious it's part of the religious makeup of a people or of a country that might help stem off a worse example of collectivism, like a Maoism or something like that. The Maoism and Leninism, one of the things they needed to kick out was religious tradition, and it's also what Gramsci was looking at, like this religious tradition stuff's in the way, and it's like the last barrier before they can get like full control over stuff. And I'm like, you guys can't give this up because you got to be the last front against this stuff. And like, okay, well, will you join in? I'm like, well, I'm not part of it. I'm not going to be there. They gave the front table. Could you guys go do that for me, please?
No, I know. My wife wanted to go to church last week. She's like, it's Easter. We can be like Catholic Mormons and go to church twice a year. And I was like, yeah, I get like I'll do it because I need to. I don't know my neighbors at all. So we went there and I was like, well, I got to know my neighbors, and now they're going to come. And
do we have a Jacob Hansen here?
You sure do, I think. Can you hear me?
What's going on?
He just got out of some kind of church meeting.
Hey, I'm not the only Mormon here.
Look at you holding down the fort.
2 Mormons.
Hey, I just got out of the temple, dude. I'll one up everybody. I just finished the session.
Yeah,
That's
Kevin,
awesome.
step up your game.
You didn't bring the phone
I went
in?
the other night. I went and cleaned the Mount Timpanogos.
No, I did not bring the phone in.
So this
But y'all need to get rebaptized, and so we can get you guys to see the new endowment session. It's really beautiful.
I'd undo my resignation if they could let me do that. But
So wait, you guys talking about Bill Reel and those guys the other night?
yeah, we're doing it. And I was just saying that I think that if you got that debate, that you'd scramble them up, in my opinion. But
Dude, here's the thing: they don't want to have a serious conversation about the basis of their moral worldview. Do you really think they want to go down that road?
Well, I don't know that they've really thought about it a whole lot.
They haven't. That's my point. What are you doing out there making moral truth claims and showing moral indignation about the church when you don't even have a coherent moral system that you've worked out?
Yeah.
It's just your arbitrary, emotional response to things that you don't like. Well, if there's no actual right or wrong, then you don't have a basis for being able to make moral judgments on other people. It's all morally arbitrary. But they would never explore that sort of a conversation. They just flash out.
Or even get like the philosophical angle that you're taking at with it. I mean, because sometimes saying that directly sounds a bit like saying like you're a bad person and a moral.
No.
It's not talking about the philosophical.
You're sounding emotionally unstable over there.
I know.
Yeah, he's the emotionally unstable one, huh?
Here's the thing. Bill Reel invited me on his show, but you want to know what he did? He literally said, he put these ridiculous, you can't exit the conversation. And then he put this huge list of all of the questions about the church, the hardest issues, and basically told me, look, you got to sit there in the witness stand and I get to grill you. And it's oh, that's a real fair conversation. How about we actually have a debate on a topic where we each get equal time and we each get to take the witness stand? But he doesn't want that.
This is 20 plus years of being an ex-Mormon atheist and listening to 2,000 hours of conservative Christian talk radio. Chris was there for some of it. We've got some stories about that. And the whole where do you get your morals from debate, this is what I've settled on. I don't know and you don't either.
Right.
No, well, here's the thing. What you know, that's a different question. That's a question of epistemology. I can have a rationally coherent argument that's based on false premises, but at least it's rationally coherent if the premises were indeed true. The thing is, they don't even cross the level of logical coherence. Remember, I can have you can have a coherent argument that's not valid because one of the premises are false. But their argument isn't even valid because they don't even have an argument to make behind their moral system.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look.
And that's fine. Look, they can disagree.
This is
That's
basically
fine.
the Christopher Hitchens morality thing is that what it comes down to is like, you know what? And it's the same answer the Mormons give and everyone else gives. You know what my morality is? It's a feeling inside me that I just can't shake.
But see, that isn't the Mormon answer. The Mormon answer is that there's an actual standard by which we can judge if an action is good or evil, regardless of your feelings about it.
Well, no, but your faith in that standard comes from a feeling in your heart that you just can't shake.
But I would say that all knowledge comes from ultimately an experiential encounter with reality.
I mean, that's most.
Yeah.
Of,
that's a separate
that's most of the righteous mind.
Welcome to agnosticism.
But I mean, I would agree with that too. But that's a bit of like when we talked about Troy. Troy had that conversation with you, and he pulls from Hume, and then pulling from stuff that's survived and pushed over time. And I think in some levels that's why religion has a better argument. But what I don't have a problem with is giving credit to religion. Like I don't at all.
Well, and
Jacob, real quick, we got a rule
my whole
about
thing
how
is
you have to have a funny name. So if you can add,
he's on his cell phone.
Mentally unstable. Your name.
The mentally unstable. Let's go with that.
Put in the mentally unstable one, according to Bill Reel.
Yes, the mentally unstable. Well, real quick, I actually got to go in right now. I gotta help my wife put some kids to bed. But then if you guys are still on, I might jump on. But just a quick thing though is that. Look, if they disagree with me about this, that's fine. Then let's either have the discussion or the debate and actually go through it. I don't think they want to, because the problem is they want to be in the critic's chair. The critic's
Bill
chair
said
is
in
easy.
that episode, why can't we just have a discussion? But that discussion would be, I ask the questions, you only answer the stuff that I ask you.
Why can't we just have a discussion that I set all the parameters in?
But why can't we have this discussion?
I don't think Bill would actually be scared.
Balanced discussion.
I don't think Bill would be scared. He has a 140 IQ. He told me several times in one video.
Oh my God.
I can think of two scenarios where you either have a discussion where half the time is spent on what you want to talk about and the other half is what Bill wants to talk about.
Yeah,
or the other thing you could do is
they don't go for that. They never go for that.
Be a guest on. Well, Bill let me grill him. He let me ask him anything I wanted.
Midnight Mormons.
Not with people who are problematic that they shouldn't platform because boo. But
well, no, Bill should come onto your channel and you can grill him about the moral philosophy.
Yeah,
stuff.
but then Anthony will tell him about how you think it's moral to steal from the government. So then you're screwed.
It is moral to steal from the government. Hey, I gotta go, guys. Taxation is theft. I'm mentally unstable, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a good one. Jacob Hansen. That was
All right.
wild. Yeah.
I'm having trauma from the mental instability. I think he caused harm.
I do. There's like in 100 years from now, all the scientist computer models have proven that will have 1 degree more harm, and we caused that. I just don't understand. It's one of the most frustrating things. Like we look to Bill Reel, supposedly. I don't even know how it fell to this. We look to not Bill Reel. I mean RFM and John DeLynn, and they get in hysterics about the possibility of just talking with Jacob. Uber Morgan talked with him, Marty talked with him, Troy's talked with him. And those guys who are supposedly the tippy tops of the ex-Mormons are like, no, we'll melt. I can't do it.
I don't know. I kind of get it. Okay, so Pine Creek, that's probably he's like, I hate philosophy. Like, we don't live every day in philosophy, he claims. Which I don't know if I don't know if he's totally right about that, but there is a little bit of truth to that. Like Anthony Magnabosco, when he does his stuff, he wants to ask people, why are you doing that? If it like is changing the way they live their life. And then,
Well, Magna Vasco, he'll leave it generally open. If people can kind of consistently answer that they're doing it for whatever good reasons, he'll leave it at that. But I don't know. I can't. I think part of it is audience capture because they know that they have paying audience who will lose their shit if any of those people come on, and it's pathetic. And
I don't think that's true, though.
I do. I 100% do. I, in fact, know that it was kind of said when Streeter brought it up, but there should not be. I mean, I obviously think like when we were 20 years ago, when all we saw were Daniel C. Petersons and those types who just wouldn't even acknowledge you or think about you. They even mentioned that in the RFM stuff, and we all daydreamed of possibly talking with them or arguing with them, and there was just no chance at all for it. And now all these years later, the coming back around to it, the flip script that now the ex-Mormons get into hysterics about the possibility of possibly talking to somebody who holds just very basic religious views. It drives me nuts.
There is some truth, though, that I think there's a handful of people that would probably jump over and watch the show, and they would be introduced to things that they'd never heard of before, and that would be bad for them. And I think that is Bill Reel's goal.
Well, I mean, they should be. I think they're maybe just a little afraid that because when he gets to that moral philosophy stuff, Jacob could scramble them up. But part of the deal is maybe you can just go get scrambled up, and that's what happens on that portion, and then you get your portion. You can scramble him up.
They're just the problem is they're just from two different worlds. Like RFM, Bill Reel, they're the debunk Mormonism world, and Jacob is not that world. He's the moral philosophy world.
He's the debunk material atheist world.
Sure.
but it's justify your claim. It's justify your morality. And that's what's difficult to do.
A single material atheist. I've been called one, but I've never met a single material atheist. I don't know what it is.
I'm just a materialist?
I guess, but I mean, so I asked Jacob, what's a materialist? He didn't respond. And I looked it up because, that's the thing I used to, when I listened to 10,000 hours of Christian talk radio, they talked about it all the time. And one of the definitions is, somebody who believes that physical matter and is all that's in reality. I'm like, yeah, okay.
So you're a monist. You don't have a soul.
But that's the thing is
mind are all one.
But Mormonism in that sense is very materialistic. God, we don't believe I still say that I'm 20 years out. We don't believe in creation ex nihilo. God used matter to make things happen.
But that's part of the point.
That's materialism.
If you talk to Jacob will say his Mormonism is on the material level because he thinks what's different between him and most Christians is that it happened in the real world. It all happened in this universe. This universe is where that God is. That God has a body. That Jesus has a body. It's not the weird Platonic, weird ideals and fuzzy spiritual whatevers of a different realm or spiritual things. It's real. It's made real. And I think Mormons are a little bit monist, in the sense of is there a spirit and body separation, or is your brain and your body different? No, I mean, kind of not, And that is one of the major huge differences of Mormons. Is Mormons in a weird way are very much believers of this universe is what it is. It's just even the God is in this universe. Even the Jesus is in this universe.
Well, he's beholden to some sort of because it kicks the can down the street a little bit of the part of the axiom that the circular part of the philosophy, because it's usually for most Christian religions it's God. That's the final basis. But in Mormons, it's more like God has a law that he's dependent on. So it's one step beyond God. There's a higher law. You know what I'm saying?
That's the other thing is
So it feels like the same thing.
Jacob, I know, says that God or that God is subject to the laws of to the objective laws of the universe.
I'm looking at Empty Bedlam's comments, and when he says that materialism, Mormon talking point, one of my criticisms of Jacob That's not really even necessarily criticism.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Troy.
Jacob's apologetics are basically the apologetics that I listened to 10,000 hours of on Christian radio. You know, like I watched Jacob.
It's presuppositionalist.
It's basically presuppositionalism. Like, you know,
but it's
a
not
lot
all
of
the way. He has
like
he knows
like
enough about that he'll hedge
yeah.
on in some certain.
It's the
like
kind of
I watched this thing with Midnight Mormons, and it was basically a rehash of I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, you know, which is old news to me.
It's the kind of apologetics that doesn't convert anyone. It just helps people feel comfortable with staying.
It's a wood tool.
I think it's a stronger tool than that, because I mean, part of my problem with so many just general atheists or random atheists or Reddit atheists is they just don't even go down these routes to even be prepared for it. So if they start getting talked to or argued about it, they just get thrown the hell off.
I just feel like so long ago I came to that conclusion. Like, atheism has one opinion on one topic and nothing else follows, you know? Like, most Buddhists are atheists.
But the thing that is true,
I learned that Hindu atheism goes back thousands of years, you know?
The thing that's
now, they're
true,
obviously
and
very
it's just
religious,
true,
and they have a moral foundation, and they have all those things. But they
it's
don't
just
believe
true
in God.
about morality. It's true about the philosophy of morality, is that it's hard. And one of the things that so many new atheists or atheists want to claim or argue is that it's just simple and obvious and it's easy once we got science brained.
But yeah, it's like watching nature documentaries and watching
Aaron Ra.
just watching the lion chase down and murder the sick, weak baby antelope or whatever, you know? And you're like, what? Lion, where is your moral foundation? It gets absurd.
Troy's right. There's a spirit prison. There's spirit in it. It's just they're the closest to full materialists out of all the religions for sure.
I don't know. Mormons believe in spirits.
Yeah.
It's just they're closest
Mormons
to everything's made flesh and real. That
Mormons and queer theorists share.
Hey, if you go back to
spirits.
Hey, if you go back to Skousen, they believe in intelligences too.
This has always been
that's Doctrine and Covenants, though, isn't it? And for the Great Tribes.
It is, but the Skousen talk, he really jumps into that stuff.
So this is kind of always spirit is matter. That's another point matter to the Mormons too. And then there's I agree. Atheists should have more defense of their points. This is kind of one of the points is Mormonism was a very modernist religion. It was created in the modern age, and it might be one of the only ones besides Scientology that was created in the modernist age. And now some people are trying to add postmodern arguments, and there's part of me that says, don't do that, don't go that route, don't do that stuff, because postmodernism is crap. But at the same time, sticking in that modernist realm is like sticking in the realm where it's easiest to jab and poke sticks at me, because everything's got to be scientifically provable or
because you bring that up, is I have a friend who the thing that broke his Mormon faith shelf, the thing that killed his testimony in Mormonism, is that he read a biography of L. Ron Hubbard.
Well, Skousen was right. No commie.
Oh, he was very right about the commies.
Yeah. Matter in the same way Invisible Dragon in my garage is. And you could say that wokeism is the defense of atheism. Atheism definitely, a lot of people point to, and I saw this argument, a little bit of an argument between Sargon and Atheist Rue. Atheism is unstoppable about, does atheism automatically lead to wokeism? And that's been one of the large debates going on out there in the world. But the deal is with all of it is that if you go down any rabbit hole of philosophy, you find that it does almost all still kind of rely on an assertion that's almost in my view, as I've been arguing before, certain cases it might as well be a god that they're pointing at there, and I don't see any way around that for a lot of them. Or as Quine will point out, look up WVO Quine and the circularity of analytics, it points just to itself as the axiom. And it gets really, really hard to justify stuff. And this is Nietzsche's point, going all the way back, is that all of your justifications, according to Nietzsche, are crap. Stop it. And he just argues for the power principle, the will to power, or maybe Schopenhauer called it as like the will. I mean, he's just pointing to the fact of like, stop playing all your games of calling it a god or a philosophy. You're just playing power games. So Nietzsche's argument isn't saying, go ahead and use power. Ha ha ha. It's saying there's no way around it. It's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like the line, should I go after the weakest antelope?
So many of the arguments out there is stuff about, especially like from a Nietzsche or Machiavellian worldview, or a lot of the view of these dissident right people, is that all of the theory in the world is post hoc. Like every ounce of theory in the world is made up by the priests afterwards to justify some sort of generalized power play. And even wokeism in some sort of sense might be that whole entire thing. The whole entire thing is just people needing to justify their power plays and or fake justify them. And that's the Nietzschean argument. But some people from the other side of it will say, that's too cynical for me. It's too Machiavellian for me. It's too being too much of a realist for me, and I don't like it. So I'm going to go ahead and think like an idealist. And almost all idealism goes back to some sort of justification that at the bottom of it is either circular or a god.
Well, it's like there's the super common thing that like a lot of ex-Mormons were upset about is there's, I can't remember who said it, but one of the Mormon apostles said the thinking has been done. But the fact is, like, the point is that there's some value in that we have 10,000 years of culture that have distilled down these ideas, and you're just one guy with 80 years on the planet if you're lucky. You can't rebuild, you can't create civilization from the ground up. So there's good news. The thinking has been done.
Yeah, that's what it is. One of the lucky things is that we're sitting on top of the shoulders and people who've trialed and erred, which is one of Troy's arguments, is that it's ultimately like an evolutionary thing. But I think Peterson, one of the reasons I like Peterson from the start is I think he does a good job of trying to reconcile that and saying, hey, you religious people, and hey, you atheistic people. We've all been talking about kind of an evolutionary thing, and religion was doing it in this certain language, and science does it in this other certain language. But though you realize that all that mythology and all that trial and error and all that sorts of stuff was all of us poking around trying to find out where the ground floor is. Let's not throw it all away because we're reliant on it. And then there's the argument from Dostoevsky, which is you can't even throw it away because, like Flip said, it's in your gut a little bit, and part of that is evolutionary. I mean, Flip and Jacob and Kevin might say, well, no, it's God. Like God puts that in you, and I don't have a problem saying it's one way or the other. But we were raised in a soup, and it's so far in us that if we went and tried to justify killing a little old lady to benefit somebody, we would barf up our guts, probably most of us, unless some sort of sociopath, and that's just in us. Like you can't undo it.
But you can one thing that kind of bothers me is how easily we can overcome kind of that gut. Oh, I think this feels wrong.
Yeah, you test at it and you push at it.
Yeah, like I think that's how you get people doing atrocities like en masse when you think of 20th century stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And I also think it can be undone without generations. Like you said, Marty, do you feel guilty about not passing the stuff on? Is like, I think that the stuff that feels natural and common sense to us could not be common sense to a generation 7, 8 generations from now.
Or even 2.
Yeah.
Look, the generation.
I wonder about that. I'm not sure.
The generation that was there for the advent of basically ubiquitous birth control is still alive. Like that, I can't remember where it was, but I saw somebody saying that birth control was the first truly transhumanist technology. It took biological function away from biology and put it into our realm of choice. And humanity is still figuring that out. And it's going to take a long time for that to settle down. It'll take hundreds of years, I think, before that settles down.
Troy says, I agree that religion has tremendous value to humanity, both historically and in the present day. It's primary respiratory of multi-generationalism. I think so too. It's just, it wasn't done in a scientific way. It was done in a mythological storytelling way, which is far less precise. But at the same time too, the flip end of that, the yin-yang of that is I think whenever stuff gets overly technocratic, like Flip says, is you can't control that even less than you can control the myth stuff. Like you have no idea what altering how easily women can get pregnant or not could throw things out of super whack across generations. You have no idea, you know? And so much of that stuff.
Yeah, but we've been making all kinds of innovations that have, yeah, like I think this is kind of the whole idea of riding the way, which is not stable. It's constantly moving. And so it's not that you go, oh, birth control is totally going to change everything. Let's not do birth control. It's birth control is going to totally change everything. Let's see if we can figure out how to manage that. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's nothing to do but act in the world. Yeah,
birth control has happened.
Right.
We have no idea what the future looks like.
There's nothing to do but act in the world and figure it out as we go, and maybe go make our mythologies and our stuff along with it as we go. But so many scientific answers are like that. Like we say, let's change this big major thing in a technocratic way. Well, there's gonna be fallout, and we can't even really predict it from that.
Or
fallout.
sometimes it's just a big fizzle, like the Segway. Remember that?
That was supposed to change the world.
Yeah, remember that was going to revolutionize human transportation. And when was the last time you saw one?
Yeah,
So
but it has spawned other things, though.
Yeah.
No, yeah, the technology. Yeah.
Well, Wally said it was going to all be like that, but I mean, I guess it could come. In our 15-minute cities, maybe we'll need segways to get farther in 15 minutes before the cops pull us over. But the one of the funnier things I ever heard, and it's kind of like a different way, like in long time frames, that the Chinese think than the Americans. I thought it was kind of a funny quote. I think it was Victor Davis Hanson talking about, or it might have been from Hardcore History. But they asked somebody like, how do you think that French Revolution turned out? And he said, we'll find out. And he's talking like he's talking in the present day, you know what I mean? And and that's so much of what's going on and what we're living through. And then what Peterson will point to, saying that so much of what those Bibles and those things are condensed down versions of people describing those long time frames more than before we had stuff really written down very well. And
it's less precise, as you mentioned, but it's super dense. It's kind of, you know.
But here's the point: is that when Jacob goes at those guys and says you can't justify it and stuff, it sounds like a kick in the dick, like you're an idiot. But what he's saying is just like philosophically right. Like it's hard to justify. It's circular.
I learned that 10 years ago after listening to 10,000 hours of Christian talk radio. Like I don't know. I don't have an answer. I just go ahead and I don't punch babies in the face.
That's good for now. That works for now.
I can't justify it, but I still think that baking a pie for an old lady is better than.
But then you have Foucault and Judith Butler and all those people who go out gouging these ideas.
Who's to say?
Their world is to go gouge it and to incept it into minds of other people. Like, why is there? And that's one of the things Maven brought up last night. Well, what Joseph Smith? Well, 14-year-old wife and all that stuff. And I was commenting in the comments, say, what does Foucault say? What does Judith Butler say about that?
Yeah.
Because they've 100% thrown some question marks around that.
How is it that your God lets a 14-year-old consent to marrying a prophet? Our God only lets a 14-year-old consent to having her tits lopped off and puberty blocked.
I commented in there, I said, Maven, can a 14-year-old consent to medical gender transition? I don't know if my stuff was blocked, but I never got an answer.
Well, so you were causing harm.
I never saw you posting, so you're probably like shadow blocked.
Well, but that's also you're commenting the person who also is modding the stream.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because that's the other thing is because in Mormon Stories podcast put up that thing about like, you know, should John DeLynn take a sabbatical? And I commented, has anyone else noticed that a podcast devoted entirely to mental health keeps producing mental wreckage? And I would have thought that I would have gotten some kind of bite on that.
But what's funny about that too is in the same podcast I have pulled up about catastrophizing the Hawaii thing, one of the things he talks about is he thinks that college kids shouldn't be exposed to that guy's speech because their brains aren't even fully formed until 26.
Oh,
And
you
you're
should
like,
say, sorry, go ahead, finish.
no, you can go ahead. But I'm just saying, like, what the hell? And they keep saying this thing, and it's another morality question. Like John DeLynn like cries to the air, who allows this man to speak? And who allows this God to be so unloving? And who allows? And there's just, I'm always like, who are you? Who's the allower, DeLynn? Like, what are you talking about? And then on top of that, he's saying these young kids can't hear the speech from this guy who just in a boisterous way is saying the same old religious stuff we've always heard. But those same kids, DeLynn's going to turn around and argue for that they're able to choose their new gender probably 10 years before that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was able to see Flip's live chat. Miss Connie saw that your live chats. But the thing is, I was thinking maybe she's blocking because, like, I don't know if Maven knows what I'm talking about when I say, what does Foucault say? You know,
No,
what does
probably
James
not.
Butler say?
Probably not. They didn't even know the whole Dan McClellan thing. We haven't even talked about that.
They didn't. That was funny to me because Bill Reel didn't even catch it when Jonathan.
They had no idea.
And it wasn't for a little while till Radio Free Mormon was like, "Hang on a minute, is that a thing that Dan McClellan guy says? And are you saying it could be a wood tool?"
Yeah, and so Streeter points to that when he says "data over dogma," Dan McClellan is saying, "I'm the data. I'm the data. I'm the guru. Turn to me. You must turn to me for this information, these general
He has
ideas."
all the credentials, right?
He has all the credentials.
I got likes on that thing. I didn't get any notifications on from YouTube. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I really remember I commented because Bill Reel said that law school teaches you how to think, and I said it doesn't teach you how to think. It teaches you how to use sophistry.
Yeah, I commented that too. I said law school can make you any sort of Machiavellian. I mean, it is teaching you how to win arguments, which is the concept of sophistry. Yeah. It's not teaching you how to be honest.
Like, know your client is guilty, but do they know?
Yeah, it's actually like an education in sophistry, which humanities is that too. So much.
Like I've met
there's a reason critical race theory started in the law school.
Lawyers. I've met a few truth and justice lawyers that are like just dedicated to truth and justice and will not sacrifice their principles for anything. They don't make a lot of money.
Yeah, and
I'm specifically thinking about it. He's a hero of mine. He died a few years ago, but he's the most brilliant guy I ever met. And he was a truth and justice lawyer, and he lived in an '85 Mercedes-Benz diesel that ran on French fry oil with his dog. And he took truth and justice cases for free, you know. But you don't make money if you're really principled as a lawyer. I am convinced of that.
I want to share this little thing.
See this?
From
you probably can't see it, but like right here, critical race theory started in critical law studies. There's a reason it started in law because that's the place where you go to make bullshit arguments to make money. That's where it is. Like, and then from there you can push it into what a lot of other different people, James Lindsay or Wokel Distance, point to, that it got in through the humanities. It got in through where we tell our stories. Got to protect where you tell your stories. What were you saying, Marty? You got your sharing something?
Can you add that to this stream?
Oh yeah, I say what the Lynn is doing.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
So this little part, he talks about bad cognitive thinking, and I feel like a lot of times in ex-Mormon world, this is all we do is reinforce each other to do these things, which is not good for anyone.
It's a way of teaching people skills to do exactly that, to question their feelings, to look for evidence. So in CBT, you learn the names of these distortions, about 15 or so distortions. You can guess what they mean. Catastrophizing, black and white thinking, labeling, mind reading. Aaron Beck, a psychiatrist.
Anyway, that list right there.
Well, what I say that John DeLynn does,
predictive thinking, like just personalization and blame. Like, there's, I don't know. It's not healthy to like always be deconstructing for one, I don't think. And then I also don't think it's helpful to be constantly looking for microaggressions. You know what I mean? From the church. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the point of critical, capital C, critical stuff, is that there is always something to be criticized, and there is always something to look at. And no matter the situation, like this thing they say in racism is that, or not critical race theory, is that the racism is there. It manifested itself. You just need a critical race theorist to point it out to you. Sarkeesian said that about the sexism in video games. The sexism is always there. You just need a critical theorist guru to point it out for you. But
let's start with our assumption.
Let's start with our assumptions. And that's the other thing that I say about what DeLynn does, is DeLynn does catastrophizing behavioral therapy. And you got this whole stream that says he does CBT, catastrophizing behavioral therapy. That whole stream is like disaster at the Hawaii thing.
Yeah.
Everybody sees this disaster.
He always tries to do that thing where he's like, this is going to be the next Brad Wilcox thing, which was the next 2015 policy thing. Even bigger, though. Even bigger, because we're going to get more subs.
Savvy B says our biggest problem in America is oversaturation of lawyers, and I agree that
I just learned that he's an Atlanta fan. That's interesting.
I saw Savvy D in the wild on a Styx Hexenhammer live stream.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
I saw an Atlanta baseball game, and it was awesome.
This whole clip, I'm going to take this down, but this whole clip was really good. And they also talked about tribalism and stuff, and I think this is what I'm avoiding. Like, I don't like the whole anti-woke movement either.
Yeah, I know.
So, anyways.
Oh, no, that's one of the things I like about
We don't like you.
Well, that he says that I agree with all the time is that conservatives get things wrong all the time. And that's a large part of the anti-woke movement that's bad, is that it's conservatives that are going off half-cocked.
Marty, if you come on here and we have a discussion, I expect you to not say anything but the questions I ask you, and you only answer the stuff that I ask you. And no, I think it's fine that you push back and make us stop and question that stuff all the time. That's why you're here.
That's why you're the Lex Friedman of the ex-Mormon world.
I guess I'll take that as a compliment.
Every time I say something, every time I talk about someone I hate, you're like, say something positive about him, though. And I'm like, I don't want
It is. It's a good compliment. It's also a good compliment because I think it's a hard road to be consistent on there, because you see all sorts of people who do this. What do they call it? It's like where they concern troll. I'm concern trolling, but you're not concern trolling at all. Like, you actually are worried about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, I mean, the thing I appreciate about diversity is like, I'm not mean, but I'm also not nice. and I appreciate people that are nice, and Marty is nice.
I can be mean. I have knee-jerk reactions, but I try to, it's like that fast thinking slow, right? Like if you just think about it for a little bit longer, you're like, that's not very reasonable. So,
is this on the screen?
No.
I don't see anything.
I don't see anything.
Is there something else to cover in that RFM one? Because I want to hit on how. I mean, I know you listen to this, Jared, but this one, holy
disaster! Oh my God! Did one of the volcanoes erupt?
Catastrophe behavioral therapy. But let me see some of the words I wrote down. Which words should I look up here? Because I wrote
harmful.
Yeah.
LGBTQI plus.
Well, the main thing I pointed to is that these guys tell us how Jesus really thinks quite a bit in this one. Like, they know what Jesus really meant.
Jesus is a socialist. Jesus would be woke. Jesus would. There's all these people that could give a fuck about Jesus love telling me exactly how Jesus his only, because that's the thing. John even brings that up. He's like, Jesus said, "Judge not," right? And this is like super judgmental. Do you think that's the only fucking thing he said? You want to remember the time he killed a fig tree because it didn't produce enough fruit? Does that not mean anything to you?
Jesus would be in favor of a
fig tree.
It's like church, but the their confirmation bias is coming through, and that's what they criticize the church for. It's like, or people that criticize people that read the scriptures. Oh, you're only reading the scriptures and confirming what you already believe or whatever. It's like that's exactly what they're doing.
Jesus would vote for single payer health care.
That's
because Jesus said be nice.
Well, it's like, how could you believe in a God or a Jesus that isn't just about love, exactly as I see it?
Just creating a Jesus out of your own mind and kind of hating on anything that looks like a liberal Jesus, a progressive Jesus, an LGBTQ friendly Jesus. So it's and it also is presented in kind of a creepy way. So
I love that this closet gay man got up there and shat on progressive Jesus. I love it. You guys need to stop it with this progressive nonsense.
Love from a creator
How
trying to find
dare
her place in the world. And I would hope that people who say that they represent Jesus Christ would give the most loving interpretations of them. But whenever there's somebody who claims to speak for Jesus Christ within this type of systemic, like very authoritarian, high demand religion, it just causes a lot of harm when people say that I'm.
You look good, Kara. You're watching this.
Messes with a lot of people's heads. And overall, I'm just in this ex-Mormon space to be able to call out where I see people who think that they're speaking for Jesus Christ. Just invite them to really contemplate what they're actually saying and what kind of messages that they are forwarding that could possibly do a lot of harm. So it's not about talking to, what's his name? David. It's not about talking to David directly and trying to do a takedown. It's just trying to invite people into like a more open-minded space.
Surely, surely. You'll be very open-minded. It's just going to be like, he's not going to go for it. But if he did, that'd be awesome because it's going to be like 45 hours of John Dehlin be like, please come out on my podcast. Please come out. Tell everybody you're gay, right?
Yeah. This Christ part. Because again, what he's going to get into this talk is we have to be focusing on the exact right type of Jesus Christ. And I always, from our Rod Meldrum interview, I always hope that if whatever people's faith is doubling down in, it is the best faith interpretation of what we think that Jesus would have said about how to treat.
I thought I brought up the Rod Meldrum interview too much, but she brings it up more than I do.
It was her Waterloo.
I had a breakdown. I was literally crying in the corner because he's literally racist.
Your concerns are his concerns, and he knows exactly which rendition of Jesus is pertinent to your cause.
If just 30% of church talks were from people with his much charisma.
No, I know. That's one of the biggest complaints I had was how boring it all is. They all have the same exact cadence all the time. It's like some unwritten rule that you have to talk like this when
you can't help but listen to that guy. You can't help but listen to him. Like, I mean, and maybe he's being theatrical on purpose, in which case, good.
Seriously, either though.
Satan knows exactly what he's doing.
But I guess enough people took it seriously to have caused harm and maybe suicided themselves, according to them.
That's the other part I love. They keep mentioning
Jesus doesn't like this. I'm done with this world.
They keep mentioning, like several times on this podcast, how this was especially insensitive because there was a suicide on campus just the week previous. But they never once say.
I looked for it. I searched for that forever.
They never once say that it was a gay kid or not. And if it was, you could be damn sure they'd be hammering on that.
Yeah, I think all evidence points to it was not a gay kid.
Why would God, the most powerful and supposedly loving, the literal embodiment of pure love, and Jesus is the God of the New Testament, Jehovah, like, why would that God be allowed to threaten us with our destruction?
Why would he be allowed?
It's super not nice.
Why would he, who's the allower there? I don't get the question. If it's God,
hold on a second, God, that's
be allowed to be God if he were God. I don't get the question.
That's so weird.
Okay, so I'm guilty of using like for example, I remember leaving and then it's like you look at the temple and you're like, oh look, there's the great and spacious building, right? You like flip things upside down and it's really easy to like interpret things opposite. Oh, yeah. And so I can't get on their case too bad, but I just find it so weird that a pretty much agnostic person is telling people that believe in Jesus how they should believe in Jesus. Like, it's very irritating. And maybe it's just because I don't agree with them that it's irritating me, but
it's all woke people.
It's exactly as simple as if we were to say like Muslims, you're doing it wrong. Like,
right.
Not only is it that, I think almost every one of their podcasts devolve into it. I hear it in every podcast.
Pretty much, yeah.
And to me, at some point, you're just competing religions 100%. And Like I go back to thing is like part of it is he calls it like universalist Unitarians who just want to hide the fact that they want to push their religion into the secular world and push it into places where we have laws saying that you can't do it. And the way that they can do it is by pretending that they don't believe in the God part, but then they go ahead and believe in all of it. And if they can just like eliminate claiming that they actually believe in it, then they're allowed to add it into our secular society.
It's basically just the inverse of Godwin's law. Like, you know, the Godwin's law that eventually every internet argument will devolve into a Hitler analogy. There's got to be some law that just states that if you're talking to a progressive atheist, at some point he's going to tell you what Jesus would really say.
Absolutely, 100%.
Every single time.
And I mean, oh gosh, they had quotes.
And then Jesus always just happens to line up with every progressive lefty point of view.
Yeah.
Right, Dan McClellan?
That's a renegotiation.
It's a renegotiation, and I actually have the academic credentials that say that I am correct on this, and that's why I'm allowed to.
I feel like he's really likable, though. Like
what the fuck?
That makes one of us.
Yeah.
McClellan? Like, I mean, I think it's likable to Reddit people. Do you know what Reddit people are? Like, there's Reddit people. Like Reddit people are down with the McClellan style.
He's likable to people that read all the I fucking love science articles. Wait, I want to hear what you mean. Like, why? Tell me
No, just his videos. When I first watched his videos.
Okay, let's see it.
There's just a bunch. Yeah, it's cute.
He has his catchphrase, I guess.
He released his new podcast. I listened to the whole entire thing, and there was nothing ideological in it, and it was full of scholarly stuff, and he seemed pleasant. And if he were that guy, I'd be fine with him 100%.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I've seen some of his stuff where it seems like it's pretty fair.
Yeah, some of it is.
There's just some stuff that's like really wacky, and then he's like, "This is the data." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah. No, there's some stuff he stays as scholarly as he claims he does. You know, there's
things like for me, like if the ultimate Bible commentator is Bob Price, the Bible geek, and because Bob Price gets into politics sometimes, but he owns his political bias. Dan says he doesn't have a political bias.
In the beginning,
Dan considers his negotiations.
Dan spoke the word.
In the beginning, there was data, and there was Dan, and Dan was the data, and Dan and the data were one. And Dan said, "Let there be facts."
Kevin, that's your next meme. You're gonna put that together for us?
Yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah, in the beginning was the data, and the data was with Dan, and the data was Dan.
I got to do the Michelangelo, you know. With the Michelangelo, you know. Okay, it's coming.
Which Jesus is more biblically consistent? Let's
comments.
Find out. That's where I come to Mormon stories.
Is more biblically consistent. Jesus. One commenter wrote, he needs to examine his opinions before presenting them as fact. Biblically speaking, there's a lot more evidence for a progressive liberal Jesus than whatever conservative angry Jesus this guy is touting. The Jesus of the New Testament was all about kindness. He ignored the law of Moses to extend mercy to the woman taken in adultery. He took on the religious leaders of the day.
In the Old Testament?
He was different. I was grumpy back then. I hadn't taken I was off my meds for those
his
5,000
executioners, etc. This Jesus Brother Hatch champions seems to be the Jesus of the Doctrine and Covenants, who is vindictive, angry, and violent, and I'd say the Old Testament as well. The Jesus who threatens you with eternal destruction if you don't obey the prophet. His rhetoric isn't unique, though. If you attend any elders' quorum meetings in the Mormon Church these days, you hear this kind of rhetoric. It was
these days.
These days, yeah.
These days, man.
Only a matter of time.
This was actually a hitch point. Is that I don't think hell was ever brought up until the New Testament. I think the first person to talk about hell in the Bible was Jesus, wasn't it? I'd have to look it up again. But
ask Dan McClellan.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see it.
Ah, shit! I made a Bible claim. He's gonna do a video.
I need to get good at graphics and have his head just slowly come up from the bottom.
Another question about Jesus, what he's describing as a liberal gospel of Jesus Christ is actually the true gospel of Jesus Christ that he purposed.
But Marty,
this is a no way.
Answer your question. Dan McClellan to me like I don't really like have a bully gene. I can present to you like a bunch of people who said like in elementary school and junior high they really looked up to me because I would bully bullies, or like if people were picking on them, I'd stop people from picking on them. But something in me just wants to give Dan McClellan a wedgie of all wedgies. I just seem like I want to wedgie this dude.
He
so
is kind of
bad.
a bully, though.
Fuck off, virgin.
Well, maybe that's what it is.
That's
is you want
why.
to bully the bully.
Yeah, but he also talks like a nerd. So I mean, I feel like my nerd bully gene kicks in. Like I gotta pull this nerd's underwear over his head right there. Is what I got to do.
That's
purposely taught in parables to preserve his most important messages. And the root of those are to become one. Find the light from within, infinite love, etc. Jesus was actually fighting for freedom of speech and belief in love. He never wanted people to alter his words and put him on a pedestal. The true corruption and idealization of Jesus Christ came when Catholic Church proclaimed to have his authority. But really,
These are some creative fucking
Just
liberties,
getting
man.
smarter and smarter. Oh,
It's weird to me how people claim how Jesus really wanted things when it like kind of evolved and became what it is today. And it is what it is. Like people worship Jesus.
Are you guys ready?
I don't know.
Are you ready for the every podcast declaration of political neutrality?
in addition, you know, stipulating that we at Mormon Stories are like officially party neutral. We don't believe that either Democrat or Republican Party are true parties. We believe there are good reasons to be on either side of the political aisle or on both sides of the
What are
political
some
aisle.
of them?
Name one.
Obviously, the Mormon Church and the Mormon people in the United States are some of the strongest Republican supporters, the strongest Donald Trump supporters, the strongest MAGA supporters. And
you guys talk about dog whistles so much, and like if there's ever been like a
when he said MAGA.
if there's ever been a dog whistle,
Mormons are the
there's
strongest
dog
Christian
whistles.
nationalists.
These are fascist McFascios. Christo-fascists, as Dan McClellan might call them.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
The most maligned demographic of our time are Trump supporters. They have been absolutely maligned, and here he is doing it, just feeding more gas on the fire. It's so wicked.
What were you saying, Marty?
What do ex-Mormons like to say? Like, if you have to say that, if you have to say it over and over again, it probably means that you're not doing it. Or something like that. I'm trying to think of the specific example. I think it's like, we love everyone. Like, well, you have to keep saying that because it's not true.
Yeah, if like 30% of your runtime is preambles, then I don't know, maybe
It's like your friends on Facebook that all they post are memes about how confident they are. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, I know that you have a confidence problem now.
I had one friend that kept posting memes about like how washed up he is now, but it was always with the backdrop of how I was a gifted kid in school. And I'm like, shut up, man. You just want to do that thing where you pretend you're smart.
This is why I don't post anything on Facebook. Ever.
I've been wanting to post the same post for 5 days, and I keep backing out of posting it. You want to know what it is?
What?
I want to declare people should stop using blow dryers for their hands in gyms because those things spray shit. But I keep backing out of I don't know why. I keep going, I shouldn't post this.
That reminds me. I fixed the toilet debate a couple of years ago on Facebook. The toilet seat, you know, because you know there's the men and women toilet seat debate where men will leave the toilet seat up and women they'll sit their bare ass on a toilet rim and somehow get mad at somebody else for that. And men they'll be like, can't you close it? And the men will be like, no, fuck you, you close it. The answer is you're both wrong. Close the whole damn lid, because if you flush the toilet, it turns into a shit vortex in the middle of your house.
Yeah.
Just close the whole lid.
That one's always been an easy one if you have
sit down on the
dogs.
toilet.
If you have dogs, you put it all the way down so they don't.
Oh, yeah.
No,
that was my mother-in-law got on that tangent one time talking about the toilet seat thing. She's like, you gotta leave a toilet seat up for your wife. You know, have you ever sat on the rim of a toilet seat? It's like, yeah, I have once. Yeah. And it was
look it up.
Those disgusting.
And I learned
they keep finding those hand blow dryers. those hot air dryers, they just blow shit. That's all they do. They're just blowing shit all over your hands. And you can look it up. And I go crazy because like at the gym, you can't walk through that door without somebody standing there having it blow, and you can't not get it on you.
Yeah, I hate that when that happens to me at the gym.
As soon as you, as a speaker in a public setting, in a church setting, start talking about liberalism in a degraded way, you're alienating all the students.
So do you alienate?
What a jackass!
Wouldn't that suck if he pretended he wasn't alienating them?
that feel more pulled or affiliated with progressive or liberal leaning or democratic politics than conservative politics. And this undermines the church's own best interest, because one of the
it undermines the church's best interests. So
reasons that youth and 20-somethings and 30-somethings are fleeing organized religion is
this is concern trolling. This right here is concern trolling.
Because
I'm concerned you're losing your 20s
conservative
and 30-year-olds.
religions in the United States have become too closely affiliated with conservative politics, and it's made people who have more liberal politics feel like they don't belong in those religions. And so one of the
What the fuck is he saying? He's saying He sounds like he's saying just having conservative politics makes liberal people feel like they don't belong in the church. Like, what do you mean?
He's an ideological supremacist. That's what he means. He thinks that certain kinds of people should be protected from certain kinds of people.
There's this great Office thing where Michael Scott he says, somebody asks him for advice and he says, well, I always say that don't ever do anything, no matter what, no matter how far or who you are. And he just goes on and on like that. And in the cutscene, he's just like, sometimes I start something and I just have no clue where I'm going and I just go with it. That's what I feel like half of John Delan's shit is.
In the comments, Savvy D says men should wash their hands before they pee. The hands more dirty, and that brings back, because like when I was a kid, I used to always joke about that, where I said, well, I only wash my hands before I pee so I don't get my wiener dirty.
Yeah.
One of the first comments that was received during this part was
just shake out your hands. You don't need to use paper to kill the planet and make it 1 degree more hotter in 100 years. And
leave politics out of church-related talks. And I do think that that's counterproductive. I think that
only we had like John Larson at the pulpit or something to keep it like apolitical and just neutral and science.
No, John, I'll say it. If you won't say, I'll say, fuck this guy. And the fucking fuck said, fuck's Bill.
The political neutrality super paddle of John DeLynn.
That's another meme, Kevin, of like the political neutral super friends. It's almost become, it's almost like it's true that like if you catch somebody declaring they're super neutral, like that's the most non-neutral person you'll come across. There's Dan McClellan and there's these politically neutral super friends. I mean, that's the neutral people. And CNN, that's the neutral team, guys.
If you believe the mainstream stuff, if you are in line with like mainstream ideas,
they're in a soup. Yeah.
Then that means that you are right. You are correct, and you are not.
Let's not forget NPR.
Your blue shirt. Oh yeah, NPR. We were going to talk about NPR rage quitting Twitter. NPR rage quit Twitter because it got declared state media.
They are a federally funded media organization.
How dare you tell the truth about it?
It was declared state media?
It got declared, like Twitter put up a sign calling it state media.
Because it's funded by the state?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
like
they quit
BBC
Twitter because of
it. But BBC just went like, well, we don't like this, but like the BBC has, I mean, NPR has a little bit more of a claim because they only get some funding from the federal government. But that's like, one of the things that bugs me about NPR's whole reaction to this is that anytime somebody brings up that they get funding, they always say like, well, we only get like 1% or 2% or whatever. But at the same time, every single year, NPR comes out and lobbies for more government money. And they say that it's necessary for them and all this other crap. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways, can you?
Well, let's see. Let's take a look at this.
Like
NPR just randomly reporting on a movie. Just a good little feel-good story about a movie. Let's read what this headline
If this
is.
was 25 years ago, I would think that, oh, that's probably a good movie with an interesting plot, But the fact that it's now, I'm like, it's probably crap.
The film Joyland follows a man who gets a job in burlesque show and falls in love with a trans woman. This story of queer desire in a traditional Muslim society earned accolades at the Cannes Film Festival. It got accolades.
Whoa.
It got accolades. What the?
Whoa.
I'm surprised they're not Christian.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Too bad we're live, because otherwise you could cut in from like season 3 of South Park about how Sundance is just movies about lesbians eating pudding.
So does the ending of the story end with him falling off of a building?
How'd that happen?
It hurts the church.
Those Christians. Why'd you bring up Christians, Kevin?
Those MAGA, those
Those
Pakistani
MAGA Christians, those Christian.
This is a MAGA country.
If that accent. It's so perfect. It's the perfect accent. Oh no.
It's everybody who thinks they belong in the church, but now all of a sudden, if they have more progressive or liberal leaning political ideologies, they feel denigrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why?
The church has its
it
rules.
is-
I can't believe that people are always so shocked that I have these new views. Why doesn't the church also have these new views with me immediately right when I get them?
I'm guilty of that.
Anything more outrageous and kind of, I don't want to say disgusting because that's a hyperbolic word, but it is a revolting.
Disgust is only something right-wingers feel. Sam told
I
me
love
that.
this part. He's like, I don't want to say disgust because that's a little too harsh, but it's revolting. Like, that's a synonym, you dumbass.
Idea that he is
think of that.
literally advocating for the right and the Christ-based right to condemn other people's love choices.
I don't know. That kind of disgust makes me feel like I need to take a sabbatical. I don't know about you.
That we could talk about to begin with. I think I wanted to start kind of superficially, just by his appearance and his voice and his hair and his clothes. Now that may sound tacky, but when I first saw this clip, I thought for sure it was something out of
This
the 70s.
is one of the things, like 100% of the feminist criticism and stuff is that appearance always comes up, which is true. But the problem is that the appearance always comes up for everyone. Like, I don't see anybody escape the appearance in the presentation and appearance thing.
Yeah.
Because humans notice that stuff.
These are 80s.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel that way too?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, especially very performative, very theatrical in a
Oh, he's gay.
Feel an obligation to share it. And so, Carrie, you can tell me if you think this is over the top. Somebody wrote, dude, he's so effing creepy. And that word creepy, I probably got 100 messages using the word creepy. Now, like, is that just
He seemed evil to me. like he should have been Satan in the temple video.
That's what everyone said that.
He really should be.
It's like that
You wanna know
growl in
why?
his voice. Like he's like,
It's because
You can
across
buy
100
anything in
years-
this world for money.
Do you want to know why? You guys don't even realize the homophobic soup that you've been raised in this episteme, that it's been over 100 years of Hollywood coding evil people as gay people. That was directly sent to your psyche.
He makes
That
me
bit
think
about
of,
marriage and
Did
sexuality.
you ever see the elementary school musical episode of South Park? He's exactly like the dad in that. I slap you.
No son of mine is gonna play basket hoops.
Icky.
No, it's not the whole time. It's when he goes like really low when he's talking about like Satan and Satan's
he gets really growly.
Yes. And he also seems very like evangelical to me. Like that was not a Mormon cadence. That was like,
every part of what everybody's kind of making fun of him for it, but at the same time, like I say, like if only more Mormon talks were like that, because for one thing, we paid attention. Unlike conference, it's hard to pay attention.
Queer coded villains. You guys playing into the tropes, man. Spinsters. And where else are they?
Did you see the movie Spinster? It was what's that lady's name? She's married to Jordan Peele.
See, Jafar's queer coded.
Yeah, it was her, and my wife loves her, so she's like, "Let's try this," and we thought it was a show, and that was all it was she was a woman who could like never find a guy, and then she decided that she just could be alone, and then that was the end. She really connected with a guy and then left him.
Oh, so it's a love story.
It's a
it's a love story about somebody who learns to love themselves and no one else.
Yeah.
See, Ursula's queer coded, and a bunch of people got mad, and that's one that they actually got angry that was an opportunity to do a drag queen, and I actually think that might have worked in that role. And they missed.
Starring as Ursula, Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Wait, you can't call Gaston queer coded. Maybe because he turns down all those hot blondes, I guess.
For Belle, like he's
Yeah,
misogyny coded, if anything.
He's just not a monster, that's all.
Well, Hades can't be queer coded because that voice actor is a MAGA supporter.
He's based as fuck. James Woods.
It's James Woods.
Do I know this? Who is this? Overly Sarcastic Products? Is that?
Oh, this is just like one of those random tubes that pull up stuff. But like, look, these are all the Disney villains
2.12 million subscribers
who are queer voted. Yeah, those guys just do like 1,000,001 different little things, but they're definitely pulling from some other like channels and ideas because there's some people who've done better videos of showing like it pops up. Oh yeah, definitely Scar's queer coded. Totally Scar. Oh, I'm queer coded. The Take, Rowan Ellis. Queer villains. Yeah, it's all a trope for Disney.
Is that
all
haircut
over Looney
coded
Tunes.
for anything? Like
all over Looney Tunes was a bunch of queer coded villains through the ages. Anyway,
what the hell? I don't know. Like, what do they think? Like, who was 8 years old watching the Little Mermaid and thinking about their sexuality? Seriously, who?
Well, but they're all just saying that it had nothing to do with sexuality. It's just the concept of like that was a way to make some character seem super evil in a easily trope like way. And
I never oh, where is Ursula's husband? Why isn't she married?
That channel that I told you about, that Is It Gay channel, I was expecting to pop up, but that guy literally goes into literally everything is queer coded. Like any sort of monster idea is queer coded.
I think they're putting the cart before the horse here because I feel like the villain code for like Scar and Jafar and Ursula is like this pompous, sarcastic, fake bravado type thing, and that's kind of the same. Like that's kind of the thing that like drag queens model themselves. It's this false arrogance,
Yeah. Alexander.
So if anything, gay people are Disney villain coded.
So this guy's channel, the entire thing is called "Are They Gay?"
Yeah.
And it's in I mean, he's done every video you can think of. You got Wally.
Do any of these ever come to the conclusion that no, they're not gay?
Nope.
Wow.
All the gays. Some of them I see it. Like I totally get, the Luca film. I think they even hinted at that's for sure was gay. You're trying to hint at Dead Poet Society. That guy was probably hinting at gay.
Marx.
Barbie movies, queer music. Are they gay in The Great
not bad,
Gatsby?
is it?
So that reading of The Great Gatsby being gay. Oh, Troy in a Bed from Community.
Oh, they probably make jokes all the time. Does
Oh,
he do
look at
That
this.
wasn't subtle.
Yeah. Road to El Dorado. What are some of these? Some of these I don't even know. Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk.
Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy? They both end up married to women.
Look at this. Gay Mormon Love Story Latter Days 2003.
Oh my God, I watched that movie.
You did? What is it? I've
It's
never
so
heard of that.
stupid. It's got who's that guy? Is right there? What's his name? The kid from Third Rock from the Sun.
Joseph
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. No, it's the whole point is that like that he's a missionary and he goes to L.A. and then like his neighbors are like gay strippers or something, and it's just a terrible movie that we watched.
Did you ever watch
Angels? You like terrible movies.
Angels in America? Did you ever see that?
That'd be funny if they had like Labor of Love video on there. Like some Mormon missionary, like obscure 80s.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Okay, definitely gay.
Tell me what to do. I'm stuck. My heart's an anchor.
Angels in America.
Oh, wow. Look,
One of the guys was
the magic of the theater or something.
gay.
Stupid, so don't ask. Stupid. Skin with a jagged thumbnail from throat to belly.
Angels in America was this whole huge, I think it was like a Broadway play. This Angels in America. Mormons. One of the guys in Angels in America is Patrick Wilson. You know, the actor Patrick Wilson's character in it is Angels in America. Patrick Wilson. It has like Meryl Streep and all these other people, but I think it was like a play. It was this big long HBO release thing. He's a gay ex-Mormon.
No, Lewis, anything. What? Anything. Whatever you want. I can give up anything. My skin. What are you doing?
I can't quit you.
Yeah. Had Meryl Streep and
What if I show you my dick right now? That's how I proposed. It worked.
Anyway, a bunch of stuff on judgment on that last one. Maybe we'll end on judgment.
It's super bad to
judging
judge.
and never judging.
Judge.
I don't know. I've realized that I think I should just believe people when they tell me how shitty they are. Because
LGBTQ anon.
Yeah, that was great.
How come I didn't think of that yet?
Jesus told his father.
Marty interviewed Lady Maga. I saw some people bring up Lady Maga the other day. Like they said, well, you think Lady Maga think it's bad to do like drag readings or whatever? And I'm pretty sure Lady Maga said Lady Maga's not down with drag readings, right, Marty?
Ryan posted on Facebook recently that he is not identifying with the term drag anymore. He said something like, I am a something artist. I don't know. He wants to distance himself from drag.
I saw Jackson pull up to Jacob some sort of thing about Brigham Young's son was some drag artist who performed at
Madame
Snow's
Paterini
birthday.
has.
What do you know about that, Jacob? I never.
Has a
heard
pretty
of that.
decent gin.
So what do you know about that? You knew about that?
Yeah, it's Flip probably knows the gin, Madame Paterini.
I know gin, DJ.
Oh, Madame Petrini. It's not
Madame
really
Petrini.
gin.
Oh, I don't
What is
know.
that?
Would you like it?
It's a type of. I like it just fine, but I like New Amsterdam just fine, and that's.
What you're talking about? Drink?
Ryan was.
Yeah, no. There's a type of
locally
gin, and
produced
it's
gin.
named Madame Paterini or whatever. Petrini.
After
Madame
that
Petrini.
person?
That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
after Brigham Young's son that was a crossdresser.
Yeah,
I had no
think
idea.
Ryan, that was who he dressed up as.
That was his
That was
original.
one of his. I think I could be wrong about that, but he's on Latter Gay Stories, and if you watch that interview, he's dressed up as a pioneer, and I think that is who he was dressing up as.
I might need to revisit that gin because it's locally made, so it might be batchy. But when I tried it, it reminded me of when I was a kid and I read 1984. and
Victory
he described-
gin.
Do you remember? And he remembers he talks about how
Greasy.
the gin was greasy.
Yeah.
And the first time I had Madame Petrini, I was like, "Oh, that's greasy gin."
That's just what I thought of when I had Seagram's.
Oh yeah.
What do you think it really meant that like he performed at Lorenzo Snow's birthday? Like he's doing some
I didn't ever hear
burlesque
about that,
show.
I
Supposedly,
don't know.
according to I highly doubt it was that. If that were the case, I bet it'd be more like kind of how the BBC and those guys did. People dressing up as females to do some jokes or something.
I don't know. I feel like Drag Queen Story Hour might not have ever been on my radar. If it were just kind of like I don't know, if it was a normal dude wearing a dress.
If it were Dame Edna,
really thought much about it, but
nobody would care. Yeah.
It was like I keep seeing these pictures of guys like hanging from harnesses with butt plug foxtails
Or dildos
out of
hanging
their
from
crack.
their things.
And there's like kids
crawling
watching.
around on the floor.
And I'm like, we have to all be against this, right? And anytime I bring it up, they're like, oh yeah, what about beauty pageants? Those too. But like,
so
look at
often
this. You don't like this. I know there's no way you like this.
But so often, if you have like a certain filtered media, you never see the ones that got outrageous. You just see the ones that look like Dame Edna.
Yeah, but they have this idea that like as soon as you bring something up, people get this thing, they're like, ah shit, I have to defend this. Right wingers get it with Andrew Tate, and I don't understand it. That like as soon as somebody's like, is Andrew Tate guy's a misogynist, they're like, ah fuck, now I have to defend this guy. You gotta get rid of that thing, because no, I don't have to defend people taking their kids to Hooters. I don't have to defend child beauty pageants. I don't like those things either. I don't have to defend Andrew Tate. He's a fucking jackass.
Right. It's kind of like people really like to be like, oh, like I like to base my opinions on facts. It's like there's so many facts out there. Like, which ones are you going to pay attention to? The ones that confirm what you already believe? Okay, then, well, that's what everybody's doing. So, like, I'm trying to listen to Pod Save America every once in a while, and I'm also trying to listen to Breaking Points. Have you heard of those?
Yeah,
I've heard
I listen to them.
So
I catch a bunch of them.
I was listening to them, and they went and they played these clips of some really crazy right-wing people that were basically, they were saying super racist stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting, because it's like, I don't ever hear that stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm sure like the crazy left stuff that really bugs me, they probably are not hearing that either. Like a lot of people that identify on the left.
They aren't hearing it, but there is just like always the major difference, which is those other guys are scripted into institutions and allowed into institutions. True. Like if they weren't in institutions, off just kind of doing it somewhere else, I'd have less of a gripe with it, you know. But I don't.
I just looked up Lady Maga's Twitter and I didn't realize Rolling Stone did a story on Lady Maga, the loneliest drag queen in America.
You guys should watch Marty's interview with Lady Maga. It's good.
I bet.
Followers to love one another, not judge one another. Right? So who are you to judge how others love?
Why do I just see John Malkovich in this guy?
Just how stealthily.
You're part of that postmodern movie, man.
That he said, "Don't judge." Like, didn't Jesus literally say, "Judge not, lest
judge
ye be
not,
judged"?
lest ye be judged.
Like it's he
boom. That one's out.
Been more clear, and yet he mocks people that take Jesus at his word and who say, "Don't judge LGBT people and don't judge LGBT people who choose to enter into legal same-sex love."
Except if the man's on top, according to Dan McCullough.
Do you think that Jesus' message was to always approve of every behavior?
Yeah,
that's what it says.
Don't judge not LGBTQ people, lest you be judged.
Is like that. It's a bad translation. That would be more like, "Don't condemn people, lest you be condemned." But like, yeah, like it's. I mean, this has been. One thing, it's a bad scripture, and Jesus should have edited it out. But like, because like obviously. You have to make judgments all of the time. I think the point is that like, don't make final judgments. Don't condemn people. But like, yeah, of course you have to judge people.
I know. Like you get two applicants to babysit your kids. One of them's a 12-year-old sweet girl, and one of them's like a 38-year-old guy with greasy hair. Which one are you going to choose?
It really is just a case of semantic specification, because like I think that judge not is like a judge passing sentence judge. That's the judge not message of Jesus.
Well, I also think
make no judgments.
There's also a part in that too, is like, lest you be judged. And if you're like, okay, judge me too.
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
This seems
it's definitely one of those where
like,
you cannot believe.
It seems to me just like Blythe left-wing rhetorical prophylaxis.
Believe
Rhetorical
how
prophylaxis.
non-self-aware sometimes these
Blythe.
Mormon leaders are.
I want to
and-
work in the word Blythe into 75 sentences tomorrow and see if I don't get wedgied like Dan McClellan should.
Like when there's like nobody oversaw this. There's like no church PR. You guys are rich enough. You guys.
Who's overseeing? Who's allowing? Who's allowing and overseeing and allowing? There's too much allowing and non-overseeing in this world.
You guys didn't run a background check on this guy to make sure he holds the right opinions, the right progressive opinions that I'm sure you guys espouse?
What are they saying here that you just shouldn't interpret as we think we should be the ones calling the shots for the church? Like that's what she's saying here. Like the fact is there are people that oversee this stuff and they're fine with it, Kara.
Or they should be filtering and censoring exactly as we see it. But this is also kind of one of my points back is that do these guys get in trouble themselves if they're allowing something on their channel? Of course they do. I mean, we know they do. We know that they back out and like say that people aren't going to pay anymore and all that stuff.
Church PR, you guys are rich enough. You guys could, where are the adults in the room kind of stuff. So yeah, Brad Wilcox, he had a lot of main points that were around more like really racist kind of talking points. And this one, I think, airs more on just really creating a Jesus out of your own mind and kind of hating on anything that looks like a liberal Jesus, a progressive Jesus, an LGBTQ friendly Jesus. And it also
want to create a Jesus out of your own mind. That would be bad.
Yeah, let's not do that.
You know what? I think I just have to point out that Marty, the engineer in this podcast, has done more comedy than Kara has.
When we started collaborating on this was the fact that we broke that Brad Wilcox Alpine.
This is more audience capture stuff here because this is kind of
I don't
one of
know
my points.
if you guys remember, but we broke this story.
When we started collaborating on
He
this
says
was
it
the
right
fact that
here.
We broke that Brad Wilcox Alpine Mormon Youth Rescue kind of talk where someone leaked that to us and then we leaked it and talked about it, and it was probably one of the biggest single days in the history of Mormon stories.
It was one of the biggest single days in the history of Mormon stories, and they mentioned many times that it almost doubled their subscribers
and donations.
This talk rivals, if not is worse than Brad Wilcox talk. Am I exaggerating?
Yeah.
So everything from that point on, part of their growth model is going to require saying that. So you got to catastrophize everything to the level of the Brad Wilcox thing, which no, I don't think this is anywhere near that Brad Wilcox thing. This guy just kind of saying old Mormon tropes in kind of a boisterous way. It's
Then
not
they should
anywhere
have Jake
near.
Hansen on.
Yeah, Jake Hansen will give them some of the things that make them lose their minds and go, "Oh, but you had it on our thing. We can only catch it undercover."
It's more over the top.
But they
right?
would be a perfect avenue for Jacob Hansen because they only have mentally unstable people on.
I can't wait for everyone to get into and have their opinions about it.
Yeah. They have to. I mean, that's part of the catastrophizing thing, and part of the growth model, all the stuff. To get more growth, we got to make everything Brad Wilcox. Disaster at the Hawaii. Who's allowing these disasters? Oh. All right, I don't want to go any of that anymore. Yeah.
I can't handle this disaster anymore, honestly.
My brain's not fully developed and it's traumatized me.
Yeah.
It's caused harm, and I don't think I can survive.
Who's
the harm.
protecting these 25-year-old children? Somebody think of the
Yes, you should go watch that Jonathan Haidt clip on Big Think because that's what that whole thing was about. How basically kind of coddling of the American mind in 10 minutes.
I started listening today to Righteous Mind. It's pretty good.
Right? Yeah, that's
I
good.
started the White Pill, Jared.
It gets fucking heavy.
Yeah, people keep mentioning it seems like the Black Pill, the book.
It is you feel gross reading it, but
Marco Malice's book he's talking about. Which goes over a lot of the commie history. Yeah. Mormons, ex-Mormons, you can be more resilient. You can be resilient enough to hear other opinions. And it used to be us. And now it ain't us. But it's getting better. It's getting better for people like Uber Mormon and Marty and forest and
I think the healthy ones we don't see, honestly. Like I think the healthy one, like we have some distant family that seem to be doing very well, and that it's not part of their life. They don't care. So
yeah, and got to throw in Morgan, Jared's wife in there, and a bunch of there's a lot of good stuff and good people and coming up, and I just would man, the fact that it's just that big of a concern to hear these guys talk or let Jeffrey R. Holland speak at a place or talk to Jacob Hansen is just goofy.
Crazy.
Anybody have any final words to say? Any words?
We didn't do land acknowledgements.
Oh my gosh.
I have to acknowledge that I'm on traditional Panahopa-Obo land, and I'm sorry.
Epistemicide.
I live in Utah, and Utah is named after the people, so I guess that acknowledges it. There we go.
The healthy ones tend to move on and find positive outlets. That is true.
I'm on an old pasture that a farmer used to run.
Oh,
what did Jacob Hansen do? Jacob Hansen was just on here. If you didn't see it, we were talking to him. But Jacob Hansen challenged
Jacob right outside
RFM.
of the Reno Temple.
Jacob Hansen challenged RFM and Bill Reel to a debate, and they just hedge at it because he's problematic. Is all I'm saying. But
is that it?
Shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially since we already know so many people that have had perfectly fine, interesting conversations with him. We know Troy, we know Uber Mormon, Forrest does all the time, it's his brother. Then it's just why, come on. But this is going all the way back to the whole reason why we started this and why Marty jumped in, and she got in on. To give credit to Bill Reel, and he also mentioned it that Jacob was on her channel and she's under Bill Reel's umbrella. And
I think a lot of Bill Reel. I really do. I think he's.
Yeah, that's what my point is. They can do it. You guys can do it. I know you can do it. You can do it.
You guys, IQ, that's for sure.
I think you will get some good punches on Jacob if you did it all the right way, and I think he'd get some good punches on you, and everybody would get better. Well, that's the point.
Right.
Is that it? Are we wrapping up?
Yep.
Just to plug, if you're in Salt Lake City tomorrow and Saturday, if you want to see scantily clad women dance with fire to contemporary and traditional Brazilian music, Rose Wagner Theater. If you care about art, you can pay $25, or you can lie and say you're a student, and they have no way of knowing that you're lying and pay $18.
You can't blame students for that; their brains aren't fully developed. But this all sounds racist.
But yeah, Samba Fogo. I play guitar with them, and I'm playing tomorrow night and the next night. But don't go to see me. Go to see the scantily clad women dance with fire.
Anything next weekend?
As far as scantily clad women dancing with fire?
Yeah.
No.
You haven't seen the Samba Fogo stuff? Like, you can look up everybody look up some of that Samba Fogo stuff. It's some professional stuff.
Samba
it's professional
Fogo.
Dancing. It's professional
it's like
music.
It's a non-profit. They're a school. They're a group. They're a dance studio. They're a drum studio.
It's really good. It's really well done.
Yeah,
I saw it like a year or two ago.
I'm gonna be there next weekend to watch Muse. Yeah, I'm stoked.
Well, alrighty.
All right, everybody. Thanks for chit chatting. I hope we didn't cause too much harm. No, I do.
Nothing stupid will happen between now and next Thursday. We won't have a show.
Nobody go harassing any of the people that we talked about in this video, except if you see Dan McClellan, give him a wedgie, say it's from me.
You reach under that bed and you say, "Not today, Satan."
I'm gonna wedgie you, Dan McClellan. A wedgie.
But just the way you say that reminds me, I gotta say one little story. Like almost 20 years ago now, I worked as a bill collector, and I collected bills on gym memberships. It was the most bullshit thing. And most of my books were in the South. And one day I called a woman in Birmingham, Alabama, and I said, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm calling about the debt." And she just went, "Oh no, I have Jesus in my heart. You are not making me sin today." And I wanted to say, like, well, didn't Jesus say render unto Caesar? Well, Caesar's calling, lady. You owe money.
Well,
Jubilee, motherfucker.
let's all end it together on one great big Arabic accented. This is MAGA country.
This is MAGA country.
This is MAGA country.
I actually know a little Arabic, and I think I can say Hada al Balad al Maga.
I get it.
All right.
Stupid.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.